What up, everybody?
We're back to the. Oh gosh,
What
sorry
was
about
that?
that.
You partying over
No,
there?
no, I'm not partying. I basically have my phone on silent mode, but I have the screen up for like our podcast to watch it live, so I can look
Oh,
at
is
the
that an ad?
comments. And yeah, just an ad popped up.
I like that.
We always got to have some kind of intro like this.
We
It's
should
not.
get
It's
we should
not
get paid double
legit.
for that. We should get paid double for that. Twice the ads.
But YouTube pays us. Hold on, we got to figure this out later. No, I'm just
They gave us like 5 cents an episode. It's okay.
okay. Oh man, all right. So more ads, YouTube. Let's go.
We're not there yet.
What's up, everybody? Welcome. We're not there yet.
No.
Episode 107 with a very special guest, Jan Welch. And Austin, it's been a while since we've done this on Zoom. You and I have both been, or not, it's not Zoom, it's on the eCam, but
Yeah.
it's been a while since we've done this because you've been very busy. I've been very busy. We've been doing all
You were in
kinds
New
of
York too,
things.
so we had some in person.
Yeah, that was cool. It was cool to go back to New York and do some in person. And we got the Blade Cup coming up.
Yep. I'm coming
So-
over there.
Some over here. Should be. Man, I love it when you're over here. It's so fun.
I'm coming over there. Save space for me.
You know what we do every time you come over here? It's in and out. We
Oh,
got to get
you
some
can't wait
burritos, man. You know, we got like a routine when you come to town. Every now and then, Adam will take you down to Mastro's.
Where he's already talking about that. I got to play with Bella, the puppy. I got to see all the
of course,
pups.
of course. But yeah, it's gonna be cool to have you down and get some of those podcasts going. But
Everyone stay tuned
everyone,
for those.
thank you. Yeah, stay tuned for those. Thank you. I don't mean to. We still got to get back into our rhythm of doing this on the on this way, but
Let's go spiel
I'll
them up.
start off. I was about to say I'll start it off with a classic spiel. Please, if you don't already, you probably do, but if you don't, please follow us on all of our social media platforms. Go to our Instagram, give us a follow. We have a Facebook. You can go there, give us a like. We have a YouTube. You can hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. So when we have an episode, you get an alert on your phone. Stop what you're doing if you want. If you have some free time, join us in the episode. We appreciate if you comment, share the video. All these interactions really help boost ourselves up to the top of the algorithm and really bring blading, as my boy Miguel would say, to the top.
Tweety top.
And then we got tweet up, and we got we got iTunes. Please, if you listen to us on iTunes, give us a 5-star rating. If you like what you hear, give us a review. All these things really help. And if you appreciate what we're doing and you want to see more of our exclusive content, we have a Patreon. You could be a Patreon subscriber for as little as $3 a month. We have some new ones coming out now. I was just in New York with Austin. We filmed some inside outs. We filmed some rewinds. We did some cool stuff. So keep your eyes open for that. And all of the people that support us on the Patreon, we really appreciate that. And it helps keep us giving us the opportunity to create new content. So I'm kind of botching the spiel a little bit.
I was going to say, you're killing the spiel.
That's the spiel.
You're
Thanks,
killing the
man.
spiel. But
Thanks.
yeah, we have a
It's only
backlog.
been 107 times.
That's it. It's not that many times. Come on. But yeah, we do have
practice.
a backlog of stuff for the Patreon page as well as our just regular YouTube page. So we're getting ready to post all that stuff. So stay tuned for all of that. Also, maybe we can film something when I'm out there by you in Long Beach, like we did last time.
I love that. I
So-
mean, there's going to be enough people around, and we could probably get find some time to do some cool stuff.
I want to skate that rail again that you did the first handrail inside out.
Dude, that's like
It rained when we were there. I got like 5 minutes to skate it, but
Yeah.
that thing is a classic. But I also want to.
You know what that rail is? That rail is a perfect non-switch up one hitter.
Mhm.
It's like the best non-switch up one hitter you're gonna find. For a switch up, I don't think it's great, but for just like perfect one hits, like that's the rail.
It's like when you go to a skate park and there's just like a rail there. Usually skate parks don't have massive rails or anything like that. It's just like you hit it, dink, and you keep continuing on with your line. That's like that rail, but a street version of it. It's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm going to give a shout out to our Patreon subscribers, our new Patreon subscribers this week. We have Tyler Garrett, Mike G, Caleb Roman, and the Coping Box Podcast. Thank you all for supporting us on our Patreon page. And we didn't do a monthly supporter giveaway for the month of September, so we're going to do that right now. We're going to jump into this real quick. Every month we do, that's the wrong thing. There we go. Every month we have, we put all our Patreon supporters in a big pool here, and we give one of whatever you want from our online store to show our appreciation for your support. So I have everyone's name in here. Where is it? Here we go. Everyone's name from the Patreon page, all like 300 of you. So thank you all so much. And we're going to let this roll real quick, see who the winner is for the month of September. Zach Roan, Congratulations, Zach Rohn. You are the winner for Jump Street Podcast monthly supporter giveaway, September 2021. I made that sound way more official than it needed to be.
No, that's official, man.
But congratulations, Zach. We'll hit you up so you can get one of whatever you want from our online store. It could be, a T-shirt, a mug, a hat, whatever you feel. We'll reach out to you, let us know, and we'll get it out to you. And everybody else, thank you so much for your support on Patreon. Boom.
It might be a good time for a beanie. It's October. It's going to be coming into November, December. Zach, it's up to you, but I would recommend maybe consider the beanie because it's starting to get, depending on where you're at, if you're in the Northeast, Midwest, it might be getting chilly this time of year. Could be beanie season. I'm just saying. So shout out, Zach, and congrats for that.
Billy the salesman. Like if we had a Jump Street store, you walk in and Billy's like, "Hi, can I help you? Oh, you look like you're a little chilly. You can use a beanie real quick. Please step in aisle 3. We have all of our beanies here."
But it's free.
It is free. I know. When we open up a Jump Street store one day, we're going to have a lot of sales with you in there. But let's keep it moving because we have a lot to go on with our guest today. We have a WTF this week from Jeremy Malik. I hope I said that name right. Malik, he's French. It could be Malik. But
he's getting better, guys.
This is a first ever, possibly. Did you see this, Billy? Little sketchy on the landing, but still, I think it was 900 kind grind.
That was 900 kind grind.
Yes. Is that a first ever? Have you seen that before?
Oh, I've never seen a 900 to grind.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter if it's a kind grind or not.
I've never done that. Wow, that's intense.
That's insane.
Holy moly.
People are doing all types of shit to grinds.
At a contest. I hope he won that contest.
I hope so too. I didn't even think about that. He better have won. If anything,
I hope he got something.
Worst case scenario, he won WTF of the week on Jump Street Podcast. So,
dude, I'm so old. I can't, I have to really look because it keeps looking like 540 to me.
I know. I did the same thing too. I did the same exact thing too.
Hold on, oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay.
You have to count it, right? You have to count it as it happens.
Wow. That was
awesome shit, Jeremy. Hell yeah, 900 kind grind right there. And before we keep it moving, our guest's taking a pee break or something like that. But we have a sponsor for this episode, Blank by Rollerblade, or just Blank nowadays, as they're known. They just announced their new Sean Keen Pro Model skate, and they're taking pre-orders now, shipping soon. We have a new video for you with just the details of the skate because it's new. There's a brand new mold and everything like that. So everybody check this out, the new Sean Keen Pro Model skate by Blank. That is a sexy ass skate if I ever seen one.
For sure.
But
that's a sick ad, and a huge shout out to Blank and shout out to Sean Keen.
Yeah,
the guys have been ripping. Everyone's been ripping it over there, so huge shout out.
Well deserved skate. Check out. They also launched a new website. Link in the description below the YouTube video. Check it out. Give them a follow on Instagram, Blank Rolling Products, and keep an eye out for the new Sean Keen Pro Model skate. You can pre-order it now, and I've been writing on it for the last couple months. We have a couple review videos coming out, so stay tuned for those. And I love the skate so far. Check it out. It's a really good, solid skate. So Blank by Rollerblade, thank you so much for sponsoring this episode.
Sick. Yeah, the skate looks great. Hey,
what are you riding on?
Get into it. Oh, I don't want to. I was going to leave that, but we're starting a new project. There's a lot of new updates to come, but it's called Mesmer Skates. So if you're watching this right now, you have an Instagram. You could follow us at Mesmer, MESMER Skates. Mesmer Skates. A lot of updates coming in the next couple months with that, so keep your eyes peeled.
There's a lot of exciting stuff happening in skating in Q4 2021, so we're glad that
Q4
all these skates
are
coming.
good.
Q4 is looking great. setting it up for Q1 2022.
Super bit. It's a business term, if you will. But
Yes. We're businessmen now.
we're businessmen. We're talking quarters. We don't talk annuals. Quarters. But yeah. So
Should we move
that
on to
seems
our
to be
guest?
everything. I would love to talk to our guest.
Let's fucking do it. We have a very special guest for episode 107. Everybody, please put your hands together. If you're sitting at home, I want you to put your hands together. If you're driving, put your hands together for Mr. Jan Welch.
If you're driving, keep your hands on the wheel.
Please. There he
There
is.
he is. Legend of
Hi,
the game.
guys.
Welcome to the show.
I love the little Jan on the mic. It's so funny. I see it in the chat too, like you're replying back to people. That's like the best cartoon character.
What's from the? You know what it's from, right?
No, I don't.
It's from Daily Bread magazine. It was Chris Peel, who's the artist for Daily Bread magazine, drew this of me, and it was the subscription cards for Daily Bread. So
That came in the magazine?
A little paper that came in the magazine, yeah, and it was a full page ad too with that image on it.
Oh, I
So
didn't
Chris
know
Peel
that.
was my roommate at the time, and he was the artist at Daily Bread in early 2000s.
You haven't changed a bit, Jan. You look exactly the same.
I know. It was called the Cart Yon graphic. So in some video, there's an animation of it. I think it's in maybe a Razor's video or something. There's an ad with that, and it's speaking in Cartman's voice.
I don't remember this.
I think I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember that. The cart Jan. That's really funny. I like that.
Cart Jan.
Well, Jan, to be honest, I'm really stoked to talk to you about everything. As long as I've been in skating, I've seen you there be a huge presence, whether it was in the early days on the AOL chat rooms, under your screen name, Scum Magazine 1995. You're one of the first websites with skating, Scum Magazine. Working with Daily Bread, working with Rat Tail, going on to do everything you've done with long distance skating, then and now blading. We have so much to talk about. But, as always, I like to start because I'm genuinely curious of this because, a lot of people, when you've been skating for as long as me and Austin have, you see a lot of people come in and you have an idea of how they've kind of started. But from when I've started, you've always been there. So I'm actually truly curious to know how you got involved, where it started. I mean, I've heard things like Jan is Austrian, Jan is from Texas, Jan is from where are you from? Like, who knows? I don't know any of this stuff. We need to know this stuff. So could you please fill us in?
All right. Well, I was born in Austin, Texas, and when I was young, my family moved to Germany, and I lived there until I was about 6 years old. And we moved back to Austin. So I have dual U.S. and German citizenship. So that's where I'm from originally, is Austin. And I started skating in 1989 when I was in about 7th grade. I saw people on inline skates around the city, in the early days of inline skating. That was really cool. My neighbor got a pair of rollerblade Zetra blades, and he didn't like them. So I kind of just, borrowed them indefinitely until the wheels were dead. And that was my first pair of skates. And my mom bought me a pair of Bauer hockey skates, and I did a lot of roller hockey. It was about like 90, 91. At the same time, my parents got into skating too. And in Austin, they built a place called the Veloway. It's like a 4-mile paved track for skating and biking. So we used to go out there, and I used to go skate with my parents. And I would go skate around the city, around the University of Texas, got into stair riding, gaps, did a lot of roller hockey. I was going to University of Texas. I was on the University of Texas roller hockey team. It was like kind of informal team, but played roller hockky there. And
Can I interject for a second, just because
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot that you're kind of going through fast, because this is like, obviously, but the stair riding, like, did you see it somewhere, or did you just
stair
pick it up on
riding,
your
I
own?
would have seen in, well, there was a skate shop in Austin back then called Armadillo Skate Shop, and they had all those VHS tapes, all those rollerblade promo tapes, where you had all those, early 90s, late 80s videos of people doing 40 ounces and stair rides and, funky jumps and stuff over cones. So, I saw it, and probably at that, I'm guessing I probably saw it on a video at that skate shop, because they used to let me borrow tapes, and I would take them home and watch them and then go skating. And back then skating was really popular, and there was at the university there was actually like on the West Mall of the University of Texas is an area where people hang out, and they have booths there for different organizations at the university, different clubs. And at that point, there was like actually an inline skating club, and Arlo had previously gone to UT, and he was part of that club too. And there was a girl in that club named Nejla, and it was an ex of Arlo's, and that's who I was started skating with, and people in this club. So we did a lot of stair rides around campus and roll-ins and just lots of rolls and stair rides. So it was kind of this whole crew doing it together. Um, so that was like the early days of that. And the University of Texas is an absolute playground for skating. I mean, not only does it have rails everywhere, it's got tons of ledges, downstairs ledges, flat ledges, and has some of the most famous rails, in Texas. And some of them we've seen in videos back in the day, but it was just a great place to skate. And I used to, when I went to University of Texas, I skated to and from class every day. I would skate in the class, like through the building, have my skates on in class all day. I never took them off. So yeah, but and that whole same group did a lot of roller hockey. So we did the stair rides, roller hockey, and then there started being a night skate in the city every Monday night that met at a bar, and that's where we started doing a lot of parking garages and bombing hills and long distance skates. And that was probably about, I'd say, 93 or 94. Then we were and my origin story for actually aggressive skating was we were playing roller hockey at the University of Texas, at Austin High School, and this car pulled up of some guys from Houston, and they asked if they could play with us. And in the car was B-Love Harden and another guy, I can't remember his name, Taz. I believe it's Taz. He was an old issue, like one of the early issues of like Box or Daily Bread, like one of the first like 4 issues. He was doing like a soul grind down a 2-inch tall stair ledge. And anyway, those guys played roller hockey with us, and then there was a bike rack, and the guy Taz started doing like soul stalls on the bike rack, and I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing? This is crazy. And anyway, him and B started skating this bike rack, just the bottom rail, just like the little one off the ground. And there was like a 4-stair rail at the high school, and B wanted to soul grind it. So it was like kind of one of his first like soul grinds on like a little tiny rail. And anyway, they left, they went back to Houston. And after that, I was like hooked on like trying to grind. And every single person I skated with that was there that day, like tried, and they all quit skating. Every single one of them, because they couldn't like transfer over to grinding. So it was just me skating by myself. Like that whole crew just disappeared, and I would skate around the city by myself. And I would see random skaters like skating down the street, and I would like chase them down and like try to meet them to skate with them. And the way I really met my first crew of aggressive skaters was that skate shop I mentioned, Armadillo Sport. I used to go in there. I made a flyer, and with the little pull tabs with my phone number for people to call me to go skating.
No way.
And
No way.
I got a phone call from Lonnie Gallegos and Jason Howard.
What?
But hang on a sec, real quick, because I'm curious. What did it say? Because this,
I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was like looking probably something like looking for shredders to do some like grinds or whatever. I don't know, something like corny '90s, skate lingo. But
you can't do that these days.
Cool.
You don't know the people who contact you these days.
And anyway, they called me up, and downtown Austin back then was, downtown Austin now is like this, Crystal City, like it's all rebuilt and super nice. But back then, downtown of Austin was like completely abandoned, and there was like a lot of junkies, and there's a rail there called, well, after I met up with them, we call it heroin rail because there's always somebody shooting up heroin when you're skating it. But that's the first place I met up with Jason and Lonnie, and it's just like a long handicap rail. And from that was our first day skating, and we skated like every day for years after that. Eventually,
what year are we talking? Is this
this
still
would have been 90, like 94. I'd say
Wow.
like end of 94. And then in 95 there was a sports festival along the river, and Frank Stoner just randomly showed up there with a grind rail with some other guys, and that's where we met Frank Stoner. And there was a a Coliseum across the street that's not there anymore, but it had these white square rails, and Jason Howard was skating that, and some random dude was skating by and did a gainer over the stairs and just
What?
skated away. Never saw the guy ever again. It's just like a random moment in skating history.
No way. Hold on. No.
That is, I
That's the
haven't seen
kind
that
of
to this
stuff that
day.
we like. No, that's the kind of stuff we dream about. Like epic, like moments in skating where like someone in the middle of the session just comes up, does something epic, and just keeps skating, just
Right.
keeps going. So that's what he did.
Well, that's what happened, and
Wow.
but yeah, on that day is when we kind of like got a really good crew because we met Frank and his friends, and we met this guy Mike Shields and his friends and his little brother. Like everyone had their own little crews, and they all kind of met at these different events that were happening in the city. And like Mike Shields was one of the best skaters in Texas at the time. You know, we're talking about harvesting the crust period, and he was, you know, as good as any of those guys in that video. He skated really big rails. Amazing skater. You know, him and Jason Howard were just powerhouses on big rails. It's also around the time we met Chris Fleener because he was about 13 and his friends from Houston used to take him to Austin. They all stayed at my house. I remember my parents always still talk about how many people used to sleep on the living room floor at my parents' house back in the day. Texas, you know, was a really big scene. And Austin, the thing that's cool about, you know, the original skate scene in Austin with, you know, Jason, Lonnie, and also like Shannon Rogers and Jay Gerink and just a bunch of different people, Frank Stoner, they all still skate. Like pretty much my entire crew from 95 still skates today. And
That's awesome.
I think that's pretty rad, you know. It's longevity in that scene there. When a lot of other cities in Texas, you know, they've just gone through phases. Not necessarily Dallas and Houston, but you know, Texas has a lot of medium-sized cities and like Corpus Christi and San Antonio, and pretty much the only person in San Antonio that's been around forever is Pancho Barrera. If you guys don't know who he is, just watch Leon the Blind. You'll see him sweat dance crazy. Has drop rail at the very end.
I know who he is from your new YouTube videos.
Yeah, so he was on Vicious. He was one of the first riders on Vicious, which Chris Cheshire, Stockwell, Micah, and Sean Sarmia. So that was the original team, and you know we went on tour together for that. So, but that's much later on. Anything else you'd like specifically from the early days?
Billy, you're muted, I think.
Sorry, I had to cough. So yeah, no, that is something that, yeah, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought, what I was going to say, but what I'm going to say is that's an interesting take right there of the beginning. I'm curious how that went over into you doing Blade Media. Like the first website I saw, like I said earlier in the episode, was scummagazine.com. And this is like right when it was dial-up days. This is when you couldn't call, like if someone was on the internet and someone in the house picked up the phone, you're off the internet and you're yelling at your sister and the phone's busy. But this is like the beginning days of the internet. You went on to make a website. What was it that inspired that? And what was your idea behind that?
Well, Scum magazine started in 1995, and it was both a print zine and a website. So I actually have, I don't know what they are. I should have pulled them out, but I have copies of the print zine here. I don't have them all. So if anybody has old print zines of Scum magazine, message me. I might need it, or at least make photocopies of it. But so it started as a print zine, and my whole motivation is the same motivation I have today, and that's just like helping promote skaters that I think are awesome and get their skating and what they're doing out to the world. And back then it was, all my friends in Texas were really badass skaters, so I wanted to take photos and videos and make a website and showcase them. And at first the website was purely just Texas, Dallas, Houston, Austin. And then it started expanding when I had people contribute. So I had people, start Arkansas and Colorado, and then it just spread internationally later on. But it was basically just, to promote my friends. And I'd made videos. I made several videos through the Scum magazine. There was America's Army. There was Scratched. There was No Budget Lo-Fi. A couple more I can't think of that I self-produced VHS tapes, and I sold them on the website. I actually sold a lot of videos back then. And I'm going to be putting those videos up on YouTube soon. I've started digitizing them all. So I have the new YouTube channel. It's just on youtube.com/Jan Welch, and you can check them out there. But yeah, those old videos have a lot of classic skating. There's, a lot of Robert Guerrero Jason Howard's originally from Northern California and grew up with Robert Guerrero. They were in elementary school, junior high together. Then Jason moved to Austin. So Robert Guerrero used to come out every summer, most of the summer, like 95, 96, 97. So there's a lot of Robert Guerrero footage in those videos, old stuff of him.
I love to see that stuff.
Nostalgic. Yeah, so
how long?
Yeah,
I never heard of this Scum magazine. Anyway, I'm just like, how long did this last for? That I just went over my head.
So Scum magazine started in 1995, and the last issue came out December of 1999 when I moved to San Diego to work for Daily Bread. And basically, Scum magazine started in 95, and then in the early days of it, you had Sequence magazine, which is Lawrence Ingram from 50/50. He had that magazine, so it was kind of like my competitor. And BMag had started as an email. At first, had started as an email magazine, so you had to be on an email list to get an email from them. And then it turned into a website, and then eventually a magazine. And my actual goal with Scum magazine was to turn it into a proper print magazine, because the print versions of the zine did get much better throughout the years. And it was pretty rad. But then I got a job offer to work at Daily Bread to do the website and different things. And when I moved there, I had the intention to keep going. And I had just won South by Southwest that year, the Interactive Media Festival for South by Southwest, for Best Website for Scum Magazine.
What?
And I had a lot of job offers it was like the period with big startups. So I had all these job offers that day. I turned them all down because I planned on moving to California to work for Daily Bread, and it ended up most of those .coms ended up failing fairly soon after. But yeah, it was pretty cool. I beat out, it was sports websites, so I beat out like the Dallas Stars and the Dallas Cowboys and like all these Texas big time websites. And I got 4 all access badges for the whole South by Southwest Music Festival. And I took my dad and my friend. We went to see a bunch of bands and stuff. It was pretty rad. And Loretta, Lonnie Gallegos' mom, Loretta, she owned a skate park back then called Intellect Rollers Room, and I was a manager there. And it was a very cool skate park. And she had a bunch of Scum Magazine shirts made for me that said scummagazine.com on the front, and on the lower back it said "fuck all the other magazines."
Damn, that's probably why Daily Bread reached out. Daily Bread was like, "We got to stop this guy.
We need him
How
on
do
our
we
side.
stop him? Let's hire him."
Yeah, exactly.
So I worked there. I mean, I think I'd met Angie. I wasn't sure, but I believe there was an ASA in South Padre Island. That was in some old videos. I think VG had a section of it, and anyway, I think that's where I met her, or maybe I just emailed her. I don't really remember. I used to do a lot of emailing and actual like snail mail, like writing letters to Dave Payne. I actually have a folder of old handwritten letters from Dave Payne, like communicating during the like VG days and stuff. And I have a pretty good archive of some stuff laying around that I'm gonna start putting up on the YouTube channel.
What were you reaching out to Dave Payne about back then?
Just about video stuff, like getting in VG and being pissed off that he didn't use some tapes or something, It's just like the normal stuff, 90s.
Yeah, no, that's pretty funny. I can't believe you kept that stuff.
Yeah, I have a lot of stuff. Like, I used to have the biggest collection of magazines ever. I had like every magazine from every country, and I had like a depressive period where I just kind of threw them all away. I kept all the ones where I'm like in them, like because I contribute to a lot of, during Scum magazine days, I did contribute to a lot of magazines. Like there was a magazine called Inland in Germany. They would reprint it was like kind of like a disinformation section, from Daily Bread, but like my rumors, and most of it was like bullshit. It was kind of like made up, just like the disinformation, but they would reprint it in German in this magazine. So their whole like news section was the bullshit from my fake news on the website. And it wasn't all fake news, but it was like, it was just like, it's just making stuff up, kind of,
I was gonna ask that about the disinformation. So you used to write it for every issue?
For Daily Bread, I didn't write disinformation, but
Oh, okay.
for Scum had a disinformation type of thing that was being copied by this German magazine.
Oh, okay.
Disinformation, I did not write. I didn't write. The only thing I wrote for Daily Bread. Well, so I'll go to Daily Bread. I moved to Daily Bread. I moved to San Diego to work for Daily Bread in 1999, and initially to do a website, but that's not exactly what I wanted. I wasn't doing websites. I was making content, right? So I didn't want to like code websites. So, I ended up transitioning into actually doing content. So I did a lot of tour articles. I organized the whole New York issue. I organized that whole trip, like who we were going to skate with, with Mike Johnson and Franco, and, basically researched who the skaters were to meet there. And,
Can
went
I
out
ask you
there
a
with Johnny.
question? A
Yeah.
quick question. Um, so you guys came to New York, and we were under the impression that it was because of like the Live from New York video got out to you guys, like Billy Schoen's video,
It's,
and
po- it's,
then
po-
I
it's,
think because of that you wanted to do.
it's quite possible. I don't remember
Yeah, but I just
exactly.
remember that because
Go ahead.
sorry. But because I heard back then that it was like, oh yeah, the Daily Bread guys like thought it was just like the first generation of New Yorkers, and then I guess when that video came out, it had like prompted you guys to want to do that trip because it was like, oh, there's kind of a whole scene that we didn't know about, which then prompted the issue, which to us was like a
That's
huge
most
deal.
likely the
Like,
case because I did research. I had to research, like, there's a reason we went, and I had to research. So I watched a lot of videos and, you know, and browsed the media that was available at that time online. Um, and just talk to people. So there was definitely, most likely that was probably it. I don't remember the details. I just remember doing the research to figure out who we should talk to, and then contacting everybody. And I remember it was, everyone was so young, and it was a very interesting trip. And I remember taking, Mike Johnson to get sushi for his first time ever, and he was calling it Susie.
mm,
And
I think Mike's in the chat now, actually, too.
yeah, so that was pretty cool. Do you remember Mike? Is he responding?
Yeah, we'll see if he still calls it Susie. If he's grown up yet.
But yeah, that was a really.
we were all super young back then, and it was like such a huge deal. I think we were all like around 16. And then
Yeah.
Daily Bread came, it was like such a huge deal. So yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I remember you specifically when I went out there for Razors for Steal This Video. I was in Philly first, filming with the Kelsos and Halloran, and then I went out to New York. And you were the only person that would show up on time or early. So you'd be like the only person in the session. So it'd just be like you and me.
Nice.
So,
Wow.
and then some people would show up like an hour later, but you were like, I always remember you were early, and we did those ledges over by, I don't know, Manhattan to Kirtland, and then
Yep.
you did that roll in
Monkey
over in
ledges.
Staten Island.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was like solo skating, but that was a really fun trip. Remember, we had one other person with us on the ferry. He was hitting on a midget. Do you remember that on the ferry?
Oof. I don't know if you could say midget these days, my
Oh,
friend.
sorry, a small
Okay.
person.
A little person, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So, but
But I
I'm
mean,
just
it
saying.
happens. So
I'm so curious who this person is now.
Was it someone from
it was
New
only
York?
you, me, and him. Yeah, it was only me, you, and him. If I remember correctly.
Jesus?
Oh, that sounds about right. It might have been Jesus.
So remember when Daily Bread did the little article on you guys and you
Oh
after?
no, that was different.
It's different? Okay, it's different. Okay. So I don't know then. I have no idea.
No, I mean that
My bad
was
if
a
I
heck
on
of,
the bus, Jesus.
that was a heck of a trip, but and it went to a lot of that stuff. You moving to San Diego got you involved in like some other companies, but quick, I just want to touch base on like those early days at Daily Bread, like you getting in there. You got R.I.P. Johnny Donahoe, Angie Walton. You have, like you said, Chris Peel, Brian Kanowski, Jess Danforth, like a lot of these like epic photographers that are like helping contribute to the culture. So what was that like, that experience moving from Texas to San Diego and being like in the belly of the beast, so to speak, of the rollerblading industry?
Well, it's definitely a dream come true to to opportunity to go out to San Diego. Uh, Getting there was not like as sweet as I expected because I, I didn't have I didn't really have a place to stay, and there's a guy named Zeb that worked at Daily Bread that was going to let me stay at his house or his apartment that he shared with somebody else. And this girl, some girl he moved there with from Minnesota, and she had this like big master bedroom, and we both shared this tiny ass bedroom, and we all like just shared rent equally. It was like totally BS, but and it was really far from downtown San Diego. It was in Spring Valley, and I had to take the bus to the train to the trolley, then take the trolley into town. And on the way back, the bus quit running, so I'd have to skate over like a mountain to get back home from the trolley stop. And it was like pretty rough. And
Definitely in San Diego
but
too. Massive massive hills out
Hills.
there. It's like
there's a
SF.
lot of hills there.
Yeah.
And I mean, SS got bigger hills, but San Diego's got a lot of hills.
It's up there, yeah.
And but so yeah, anyway, I was working there. Just like I said, I was starting with a website, but then I started doing writing, and then because I'd already been doing videos, as soon as I got there, I got immersed in the scene. I started filming right away, so that's when I started making the video United Front, which was the first video I filmed while I was in San Diego, and I was working Daily Bread at the time, and I had a section with Chris Haffey. It was really good. He had like a double section, and then Brian Shima had a section, and like Aaron Dazan, a bunch of dudes. And anyway, that video came out pretty cool.
Mike Leaf?
Angie was a little. What's that?
Mike Leaf in there? Was Mike Leaf
Mike
in
Leaf
there?
was in there. Mike Leaf was in there, yeah, but he didn't have a section. He just had clips. But Angie wasn't stoked that I made the video like while working Daily Bread, so she wanted to distribute it. So I let her distribute it through Daily Bread. And after that is when I started making the Daily Bread videos. So I was going out filming. I did Quattro first, and then No One's Children. And Quattro had the Pianowski section.
Yeah, that was wild.
Why Quattro first? Just wondering.
Because it was the fourth Daily Bread video.
Well, you weren't making the beginning ones, you mean?
Sorry, what's your question?
You didn't make Forest Fire Under the Influence or
No, because that was before I moved to San Diego.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
When I moved to San Diego, when I was first working at Daily Bread, was Forest Fire and Transcendent already come out, and they had just brought Drew Backrack in to make Under Influence. So he was doing Under Influence while I was making United Front, and after Under Influence is when I made Quattro, which was the fourth video, and it's Quattro, the Portuguese spelling.
2 T's, right?
One with 1 T.
1 T and a Q.
Because,
yeah.
And because Pianowski section, so
I didn't know that.
being from Brazil, yeah. So, and that was a really insane time because Pianowski's mother had just passed, so that's why he came to San Diego, and he was just not in a great state, so he just wanted like do crazy tricks, and he did some crazy tricks. I mean, if you've seen Quattro, it was just like stunts, and then you had BJ Bernhardt, had just moved there, and he did crazy stuff. So you get Carlos and BJ skating together, and they're just doing hammers all day long. And yeah, I mean, and you had all those kids in San Diego, Chris Haffey, Mike Leaf, the Santee crew. Then you had Connor coming down, Jeff Stockwell, all those guys. So many good 16-year-old kids. And I picked up Chris Haffey almost every day from his house in Coronado Island. And back then, you still had to pay a toll to cross the bridge, which later on they got rid of it. But I used to pick him up, and we'd go drive around the city and just film for years. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I did the videos. I enjoyed it. I didn't last at Daily Bread that long. It wasn't really like... I mean, it was a great experience, and I made great friends, but it wasn't what I really expected it to be, the experience to be like. So after 2 years and 2 videos and doing the layout and stuff, I quit. The No One's Children video, which had the Rob G section, that was a really fun video to make. And I actually filmed that video and still this video at the same time. So when I was in New York filming with you, Billy, I was actually also doing No One's Children. And they premiered one night apart at ASR trade show. So it was Friday night was still this video premiered at the Hyatt Hotel on the Bay, and then on Saturday night it was Still This Video at the Spreckles Theater. Not Still This Video, sorry. It was No One's Children at the Spreckles Theater in downtown San Diego. So that was a pretty cool experience to have 2 big premieres, 2 days, during ASR Trade Show, which is something that I don't think anyone had happened to them, then or since, which was kind of cool.
I was at the Quattro premiere. That was nuts, dude. It was so sick. It was my first time in California, and it was after the ASR trade show down in San Diego, which is like this huge kind of trade show, ton of skateboarders and like one aisle of blading or something like that. But it was lit. It was super tight. And basically, it was just this downtown San Diego movie theater packed out. Just
really
packed,
cool,
like,
really cool theater too.
Out.
I can't imagine people seeing the Carlos section at a premiere, like the hype that was going on in that room at the time.
It's a weird feeling in a theater like that. There's so much energy, and Quattro, like with the whole intro and everything, built it up pretty cinematic. So it was. I thought they were both perfect videos to premiere in a situation like that. And I mean, the venue, it's just so cool. You remember the venue, Billy? It was like the huge vaulted ceilings and like the acoustics were really good. It was really
movie
rad.
theater style, like almost theater,
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, doing those video premieres were fun. And then after that, I just kind of freelanced for a year before we started 4x4 and Rat Tail.
Wait, before we get into all those, because those are big stories also.
Right.
Along this video filming tip, like you filmed some of the most highest profile goats in skating. You mentioned a few: Brian Shima, Chris Haffey, Carlos Pianowski, Rob G. Like, I got to know what it's like filming with these people. Like, you saying you're picking up Chris Haffey every day to go skate. Like, that's got to be such an experience to see that. And like Brian Shima, like people like this who defined our sport, and you're going out and filming them all the time. Like
some of the most iconic tricks.
Yeah.
Some of the most iconic stuff out there.
It was definitely amazing to watch these things happen in person. Like, I remember Chris Haffey at, I don't remember the name of schools anymore because it's been so long, but I think it was like Rancho Santa Fe High School or something. There's like it's like a 22 stair, really steep rail, and it was like the first rail that Chris Haffey tried, switch true top Soyal. I'm like, well, that's a gnarly ass rail to try that on, Mm-hmm. But yeah, just all these stunts. Like there was a lot of scary stuff. Filming with Pianowski and like a lot of those disasters and big drops. Like there was a few things where I'm like, I hope this person doesn't die.
Yeah.
A lot of those tricks happened at the San Diego Convention Center between Pianowski and Mathieu Heinemann, because there's a lot of gnarly ledges there. And the one with Mathieu Heinemann doing the back royale on like the 5-story drop ledge that was in the credits of Leading the Blind is the scariest thing I ever filmed. It was a photo in Daily Bread shot by Ryan Schutte. But yeah, it was one of those things like, he did the first time he did it, he landed on the ledge, which is kind of like angled, and the whole ledge was just full of seagulls. They had all landed in front of him. So he had like drop on his butt and like slide down and then go back up and do it again. And he laced it. But it was like just, kind of like biting your teeth, hoping that they don't fall off on some of these tricks. But most of the time it wasn't like anything death defying, but it was definitely gnarly. A lot of those clips, I mean, there's just so many crazy clips, like you said. Did you film
Eric Burkett's 180 and Steal This Video? The double set?
I did not film. No, I did not film that.
Damn it!
It was.
I was hoping you did. I wanted to know about that.
I did not film that. No, it was given to me for the video. It was one of the few clips in that video I didn't film because I filmed pretty much the whole video except that Burkett clip.
Damn.
And I'm not sure. Maybe like Mikey Albritton or somebody, one of those ESCO kids filmed that.
Right.
And gave it to me.
So does anything else stand out besides Matthew's back royale on that ledge? Because Carlos done some gnarly ass shit.
Well, I think one gnarly Carlos trick that I didn't film, but it was in No One's Children, I believe, it was filmed by Colin Martin, where Pianowski, it's like a flat roof, and he like gaps over like a channel, and disaster back royale is a drop rail.
Yep.
Is that
do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like off a roof to back royale rail.
Yeah, exactly. That was Colin Martin filmed that, I believe, and that was gnarly. I wasn't there for that, but a lot of it's just the stuff like the disaster to the second down rails and stuff at the mall in San Diego. Um, it's kind of hard to remember all the tricks, but
There's a lot.
it was definitely very cool to document so many of these legendary skaters and legendary spots. One person I enjoyed filming with a lot that I was supposed to make a section with, and it's the only person who I was supposed to do a section with that ever happened was Brandon Campbell because he got injured. But I did get a lot of good clips of him throughout those years. I just never was able to film a section with him, um, and which was kind of a bummer because he was such a good skater back then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
another one.
I actually have like a bit of an inquiry, which I think it might answer itself, but maybe not. During that time that you were making a lot of these videos, like blading was like very specific in trends, right? So like in the early days, like around like the mid '90s, there was like the Janko chain wallet kind of punk rock thing. In the late '90s to early 2000s, it was heavy hip hop, baggy jeans, like sweatpants and looser clothes, and then it went to a tighter thing, and it went through these phases, and like all the individuals involved kind of went with it till it got to a place where that everyone kind of did their own thing to a degree. This like these trends that ties together, but it's generally more people doing their own thing. During that time, you were making, you came very forthright with your style that was very distinct. It was a very punk rock style. It was like owning the rocker thing, like, when like you were doing it, when like Shima and John Elliott was doing it, it was more of the outlier. It was like not so much of what was the trend at that time. So I was actually curious to know like where a lot of your influences came from, because I think a lot of us who were involved so deeply in skating and had to be such a part of our lives, a lot of our influences came from within skating, like maybe from your videos or from the VG videos or things like that. And that's where like a lot of the beginning influences come from, but yours clearly come from outside. So I was curious where a lot of those influences and visions came from.
So for music, um, when I was in college in University of Texas, Austin's a very famous music town. It has been since the '60s with 13th floor elevators, and then the '70s with the punk rock. The Dicks and the Big Boys and the Huns, and like it's just been this music town. And the '90s was a really special time in like the Austin for music scene. And when I was living in Austin, I was going to university there. I was DJing at the university radio station for 3 years, and so I was at shows every night. And I got really into music. And there was a record store called Sound Exchange on the Drag, which is the main street by the college. And I used to get free promo stuff from the radio station. I would take it in for store credit and just get like every 7 inch that looked cool on the wall. And that's kind of where I found out about music. I remember seeing Dead Moon play like for the first time in like '94 uh,
Wow.
in Austin, and I pretty much had like all their records. I mean, I have everything that he's ever done. Um, but yeah, I was a big fan of like Dead Moon. So like introducing that to those, like when I first moved to San Diego, I had all that music, and Brian was more hip hop still back then, and John was more into like classic rock, and they weren't really into that. I played that music, but it took several years for them to get kind of transitioned into liking that type of music as well. So so my introduction to music was through just my being in the music scene in Austin. I've always liked music. The whole time in San Diego, I DJ'd at venues during shows, like between bands and Beauty Bar and different places. And in Austin, I DJ'd. I like music. I've always liked music. I got a huge record collection, like 4,000 records, mainly like punk rock and psychedelic stuff. And
That actually makes a lot of perfect sense. Like saying that, like right after I asked the question, you just said, "Oh yeah, I grew up in Austin. There's a lot of shows." I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, obviously," because having gone to Austin myself, it's like such a music capital, and they have all these eclectic style of music and all of that. I'm interested to hear that you had your music taste had an influence directly on Brian and John, which then had a huge impact on the rest of the industry. Because yeah, I actually do remember when Shima was hip hop. Not many people do. They some it's an early day when Shima was still like really into hip hop and like wearing the baggy clothes and into that style. A lot of people remember him from like the Bomb Squad and like Metallica and like this kind of stuff. But yeah, that's interesting to hear. Do you think that they grew to your music by just you exposing it to them?
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, John got into it first. Um, you're not on, Billy.
Am I not on?
Huh?
No,
Did he say something? No.
is he talking?
Hello? Is my
Yeah.
mic in?
Now you're in. Now you're in.
All
Okay,
right,
it got
sorry.
unplugged. Sorry.
Turn me up in them headphones.
Um, okay, so anyway, I looked at the chat real quick. I wanted to. So what was your question, Billy? I'm sorry, I got sidetracked.
Oh no, that like I was saying, like Brian and John, like their music style had such a direct influence on so many skaters, and even though
Right.
it influenced the dress style, it's interesting to hear that a lot of that style of music came directly from you. Because I don't know so much John in the early days, but I do remember Brian Shima from when he was hip hop and dressing into hip hop style. But he's so known for being like the punk rock vicious, Redwood City
Right.
Bomb Squad kind of guy. So I was saying, do you think that your music had a direct influence on
The
them?
music did definitely have a direct influence on them. When they started transitioning in, because John was really into like the Who and Led Zeppelin and stuff like that early on. Um, and what happened too is when they got older and we started going out to bars in San Diego and we started going to shows, the type of music that we saw was more along the lines of punk rock, and so then they opened up more to listening to my record collection because in my place, which they were at, like Brian lived on my couch for years and John was there all the time, and then me and John lived together. My record collection was out, so anyone could listen to records and stuff. So it was definitely influenced them. Those guys definitely had the style aspect. I never really dressed like super punk rock or anything, whatever, but I did listen to all the music. And um, so yeah, I definitely, the music in my collection definitely influenced the direction of how they went, and which, like you said, did influence the direction of a lot of skaters out there. As far as vision of Vicious and like marketing, that was all me and John kind of that direction of it, and that was tied in with music. Vicious was really tied in with being a kind of punk rock company. I did want to mention one thing. I looked at the live chat, and there was a couple things I remembered when you asked me about crazy stuff I filmed.
Mm.
Leap of Faith, Ian Brown
Oof.
was one of them because it was just a gnarly fall. And Dustin Jones doing the transfer at La Jolla High School, flat rail to down rail transfer, where the first time he gutted himself and then he did it again. That was like a super gnarly trick. And I did want to mention that being in San Diego at that time, working for Daily Bread, and there was every good skater in the world would go to San Diego because it was guaranteed they would be in Daily Bread magazine. So that's one reason I was able to get so much good footage too, is because all the skaters from Australia and Europe and all over the US would go to San Diego, and a photographer and myself would go out with them and they would get a photo and they'd be in the video. And that was a big draw for people to come to San Diego. And with one, it's a little bit different because they don't have an office. There's not a photographer, so it's like no one's going to San Diego um, for that reason anymore. Because a lot of people were there back in the day to get, you know, in Daily Bread. It was like a goal.
Mm-hmm.
So and I was part of helping that goal of theirs. So I want to give a shout out to like all the photographers, Daily Bread. Keith Wilson, Dan Busta, Ryan Schutte, those guys who I was with all the time, and Johnny Donahoe as well. Rest in peace. He was a really good photographer as well, and we worked with him a lot with Rattell.
Mm-hmm.
He has similar vision, and was a punk rock guy, so in the music scene. But sorry, I sidetracked from the other music discussion.
No, that's true.
No,
That,
I actually, and I'm sorry, Austin,
Okay.
to keep barreling on, and I'll shut up after this.
No, go for it.
I'm just actually curious about this one thing before it slips my mind. So you were saying like in the early days, um, Brian was staying on your couch. John would always pass through the house. Um, I heard this. I don't know how true it is. A lot of these things like that you hear in the early days are not necessarily true, but I heard when John first came to the States, he came from Austria and he wasn't um, great at English, right? But he was able to speak English. Did you guys speak German together? Were you able to converse in that Germanic dialect, or?
Well, first of all, John is John did grow up in Austria, but he's American, and his family were missionaries, and they all spoke fluent English. They spoke English at home. So
Okay.
whoever said he didn't speak English, that's incorrect. But at the same time, he went to international schools there, so he was always with English speaking. But he did speak fluent German, and we did speak German together. We would speak German when we would go to bars, and we didn't want people to know what we were talking about. We would talk in German. Um, but yeah, so John came from a missionary family, and all the kids moved back to the States. There's only one of the kids is in Finland, and his parents moved back to the States now too. And I want to say there's a video that John was in. Back in the day, John grew up with Michael Bayer of BMAG. That was who we skated with. And Michael Bayer made a video called Vienna Walzer for like Vienna. And John Elliott has a section of this video. And this is a long lost video. So if anyone out there has a copy of it, make sure to contact Billy and Austin or myself so we can watch it. So yeah, that's it on that.
Oof.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool to locate some things through this podcast, whether it be the video or the old Scum scenes. That cool. So if any of that comes to fruition, please hit us up because I'm very curious to see that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Austin, go ahead. I don't want to.
No, I was gonna say before about how San Diego is like the hub for skating at the time, and how I used to love appreciating the fact that back in the day, how you said before that when people went to San Diego, you would get a picture in Daily Bread and you get like filmed by you, like the clip of it. And I used to love that about media back in the day because everything wasn't instant on YouTube or Instagram, whatever it was. So you would see like the picture in the magazine, and then like months later the video would come out and you would see the video clip, and then like it would click in your head a different way, or vice versa. You would see the video clip and then you would see the picture in Daily Bread. And I used to love that touch in skating and getting all like those little nuances and the tricks that you get from the photo, and then you get a different feel of it from the video clip. And I used to love that feeling back in the day about skating. And I love that you mentioned that too about San Diego and Daily Bread.
One thing I want to mention again with the San Diego time is, first of all, Mike Johnson was really fun to film with because he was so good. And after when Mike Johnson came to San Diego for the first time, I picked him up from the airport, and I remember him being so stoked, like that he left New York for the first time and he was in San Diego, and and he ended up staying in Southern California. But one thing that Daily Bread did kind of ruin with skating in San Diego is because what Daily Bread did is there's a period where they would say the name of the spot in the photo. So they would name the school or what the spot was called in the photo in Daily Bread. So all the people who came to visit San Diego already knew where the spots were. And a lot of these spots are spots, it works with spots. Like you can only skate them certain times or whatever. And if you're local, you're going to respect that. But when you're coming as a skate tourist, you don't give a shit. You just want to skate it. So, I mean, so many spots that were in Daily Bread were capped because of that reason. They were just overskated. And then eventually they stopped putting the name of spots in there when they realized it wasn't the best idea. But yeah, I just want to throw in that little tidbit.
That's pre-Google too, pre-Google Maps and everything.
Right. They took it to regular maps. They just
you know what? So I used to do MapQuest. I'll tell you how I found spots in San Diego. I had my spot finding technique in San Diego was, MapQuest had just kind of come out, so use that a little bit. But the airport in San Diego is downtown, so you fly in really low altitude when you fly in from any direction in San Diego. So I knew all the interstates, so every time I would fly in, I would just look out the window and look for spots. And there's a lot of ditches and schools and businesses, way out, who knows where. So I would just map them in my mind when I saw them from the plane. And then I would get on MapQuest and locate them, and then I would drive out there. And that's how I found a lot of spots, just from coming back. Because I flew so much back in the Daily Bread days that I was always flying back in and finding new spots, looking at the airplane.
I'll say Jan finding spots back in the 90s be like buying the cheapest plane ticket from San Diego to New Mexico, Phoenix, just so he could hop back and forth over the city. That's fucking funny.
That's funny. This is before you could go through the Google Maps looking through the ditches. He was just taking the flights and just The
Photogra-
binos.
Yeah, so
photographic
Google Maps
memory.
is amazing. Like Google Maps, you can look at like, I mean, even California. There's these towns where they have the fires and the houses burn down, and then you can, like pretty much like the whole neighborhoods are abandoned. And you just get on Google Maps and you look at which houses have pools. Because it's like these abandoned neighborhoods with a bunch of pools because they're all rich. Most of them are like rich houses and they all have pools. So that's how a lot of these people found pools out there. Is just on Google Maps looking at,
I never thought
abandoned
about
houses.
that.
Yeah.
The techniques are out there. There's so many different ways to find spots these days.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of like there's lots of ways to do everything. It's just a matter of thinking about it. And so I thought it would be really cool to have a resource website for rollerblading that has like everything for doing anything you need to do.
What would be
blading.
involved besides spots?
Well, it'd be like how to organize a group skate, or how to meet skaters in your town, or how to organize like a night skate in your town, or stuff on skate instruction, or just anything like how to work on skates, just every possible resource for skating, because a lot of people, back in the day, you found a lot of your skaters through skate shops, right? You would go to a skate shop and you would meet people. That's how I met a lot of people I knew. There's not that many skate shops anymore, so you can find some people on Facebook, but there's still a lot of people not on the Facebook blading groups. If there was, you would have probably like a lot more people than is on them, but just ways to show people how to connect with other people and how to start your own shop and how to start your own whatever. Because it's very attainable. It's just people don't know how to do it, so having experts that have done stuff kind of just give their input and have a site. It's like a collaborative project, but it's really hard to find people to come together and do stuff when no one's making money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's tough to sustain something like that when there's not that kickback.
Yeah,
I want to get
that's
it.
maybe what you. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I want to get deeper into these ideas. I do,
Mm-hmm.
but I still need to go through the past because I'm curious. I don't know if the guests are curious, but we can come back to this if unless I'm being rude. I hope I'm not.
No.
Okay.
Whatever you want
cool.
to talk about.
I want to talk about the beginning of Rat Tail.
Okay.
Because like you said, you were with these, iconic bladers, like some of the people who shaped to the point where skating is where it is today. They had their hand in the creation, whether it be John, Brian Shima, a young Chris Haffey, and that whole development and stages of development therein. Yeah, what was like you said, like Vicious had like obviously like the punk rock ethos behind it, but what was like was there like a greater plan, the greater idea? Like how did that all come to be?
Well, 4x4 was a crew initially, and it was a crew started by Corey Casey, and it was a drinking crew. It was 4x4 boozers, and it was John Elliott. It was started before I was in the picture. They had started because it was because Corey Casey is Bo Coddington's cousin, if you guys knew that or not, but they're cousins. They're moms or sisters, and so they grew up skating together. And John, when I first moved to San Diego, John was living with Bo Coddington in Escondido, and that's how him and Corey became friends, because John was like a little bit. Corey and John were more similar in what they were into, so they became friends and ended up in San Diego. But that's how 4x4 started, was them, their little drinking crew, and it came to the point where John and Brian were writing for Mind Game with Chris Haffey had just been put on Mind Game, and they wanted to do their own thing. And at that time, I had quit Daily Bread. Like I said, I was doing freelance videos, so it would have been about the end of 2003 where we decided to do a wheel brand, and we wanted distribution for it. So that's when we started Rat Tail, and it was done out of my apartment. At the time, I was living with Tori Treseder, and he had just moved back to Utah, and so we had a spare room that we set up Rat Tail in, or 4x4 at that point, just a couple shelves with T-shirts on it, and we got the first wheels in, which was a Rob Thompson wheel, a Shima wheel, and a John Elliott wheel, which was like just their faces from like photographs. And we took those wheels and those shirts to some contest in Sacramento or San Francisco, I don't remember, but that was kind of where we launched it, and that's where we did the ad with Pat Lennon doing the Misty flip over Mike Choli's pickup truck with John Elliott, Chris Haffey, Shima, and Rob Thompson standing in front of it. You guys remember that double page spread in Rejects magazine?
Who can forget that?
And that was the backside of the business cards we had made at first. So yeah, that was I forgot who actually shot the photo, but it was Mike Choli's pickup truck, which I remember that much of it. But yeah, that was our kind of launch weekend for 4x4. And at the beginning, like, you know, John and Brian had invested money into production. I didn't have any money, so my investment was like sweat equity. You know, doing like the work, selling it, and getting stuff made, and just running, you know, the business side of it at the beginning.
Oh yeah, sweat equity. Yep.
And so yeah, and you know, at that time, like, Brian was sleeping on the couch for a while, and John was crashing over quite a bit, and then John got a place down the street with Chris Peel and Corey Casey. They just lived around the corner. But yeah, that was the early days. We just started it and did it out of the apartment, and from there on, we moved to we moved into a different house, a bigger house. It was me, John Elliott, and Chris Peel. We moved into a bigger house, and that house had a garage, like a real crappy old garage. It was falling apart, and we paid the Santee guys to renovate it or add a floor to it and redo the walls, and we turned that into the Rat Tail warehouse, which was just, you know, 4x4 at that point. But that was around the time we started Vicious. So we started Vicious out of that house, and we silk screened. Chris Peel designed everything. So like, me and John came up with the concept. Chris Peel designed everything, and we screen printed all the shirts by hand and had the Vicious tour, the photo shoot, like the Vicious ad where everybody's sitting in the couch. It's like, you know, Mikey Yeager, Sean Stormio, all those guys. That was shot that day, and then we did the Vicious tour the next day, which is one of the last video on the Vault series on my YouTube channel was from the first day of tour. But yeah, and then from there, Vicious ended up being a very successful brand. I mean, 4x4 was too, but Vicious really, like, the punk rock image of it was really big, and you know, we ended up getting a bigger warehouse, like an actual warehouse over by the sports arena district, and we ran out of there. We had at that point Jen Eisinger, who's the wife of Justin Eisinger from One Magazine. She was handling sales for, even before that, from the first house I was in. We brought her on pretty early for sales, so she handled sales pretty much the entire time, except the very beginning when I was in it. But yeah, so it was a lot of work. You have any specific questions with it?
I have a random question that came up because you were talking about this is going to be so random too. You were talking about the ad with Pat Lennon doing the Misty flip over the truck and everybody. You said it was the back of your business card. Was it like a 4x4 business card? Like what does a wheel company have a business card for? I'm just curious. It just
we had business cards, 4x4 business cards. Well, you know, we went to skate contests and events, and you hand it out to people you meet. You know, back then it was you know, ASR. Like, there was still industry stuff happening. There was still media. There was still like business contacts you could make. So.
Skate shop owners, right?
And you know, skate shop owners, and even for when we're going to find, you know, screen printers and stuff, you give them a card. So we definitely gave out a lot of cards. I mean, we definitely gave out like 1% of the cards we got made, but
that's pretty standard.
But you know, they came in, they were useful, you know, and then just like, you're like, hey, I have a business card, you know.
Seems official.
It's kind of cool.
It's a cheap way to seem official.
Yeah, so. But, you know, also, you know, when it comes to music, you know, John had always played guitar, and he got Shima and Stockwell into guitar, and, you know, Shima really fell, you know, into guitar, you know, heavily. Obviously, he plays in bands now and everything, and, you know, has his guitar, just works at the guitar shop. But at that very first warehouse, they built a music practice space. So Brian could play music in there with John, and then John's little brother had started a band, and they practiced out of there. So every warehouse we had to the end had a practice space, so those guys could play music. So it was definitely part of Rat Tail, the whole music thing.
Apes of Wrath.
Apes of Wrath, yeah. So that was the Bolino song from the Sleaze video.
Yeah, Apes of Wrath was Dustin Elliott's band, and there was a feature, a spotlight in Daily Bread. I think that's what it was called. And
yeah, Dustin's a really good musician. You know, he's been in some like more punk projects since then. He picked up art a couple years ago, and he's a phenomenal artist. And now he's going to a master's degree in art, and somewhere in Illinois right now. So I'm pretty happy for him because that kid, you know, talented musician, talented artist. John was also a really good artist. He just didn't really, you know, do too much art. But when he just sketched, he had some really cool sketches. I actually have a few of them still in my collection of memorabilia.
Yeah, so I don't know, that just I remember you being such a big part of all that stuff. Obviously, like in the mid 2000s, it was like the downfall of Daily Bread. Eventually, like, you know, John Elliott and started leaking out of skating, and Shima started doing his own thing with SSM. You moved back to Austin at this point, right? Or what happened in between that?
So, you know, okay, well, when I left off, we had just done Vicious and we moved into the warehouse. So after we moved out of the first warehouse, we moved into a second warehouse in the hub of North Park, which is a neighborhood we all lived in and that we spent a lot of time in. We got a warehouse that was way too big for our means. Like, you know, it actually just got torn down. The old warehouse is no longer there, but it had a storefront in the front of it. So in around 2009, John Elliott and I started a vintage clothing shop out of a storefront called Bedouin Vintage Collective, and it was also art gallery, so we would have art shows every month, and bands and DJs, and we did have a blading art show during a blading contest, I think at ESCO, or some big blading event that was in San Diego. We had an art show at the shop, which was Arlo Eisenberg, Eric Burke, Sarah Danforth, Chris Peel, and Jeremy Baytall, and Adam Namera. So it was a pretty rad show. I don't know if you were there, Billy, but it was a fun one. So we did that shop, and that was really fun. And that continued after Rat Tail had folded already. So, and then around 2012, I was just kind of over the whole thing in San Diego. Like everything I moved there for had happened, so I moved back to Austin. But you know, the whole thing with NIM. I mean, we started NIM. That was a fun time. You know, NIM was John and Brian's pet project. I didn't really have any. You know, I wasn't involved with NIM except for helping, you know, run NIM, but it was their company. But you know, I helped with all the marketing and branding and designing the ads, and you know, I filmed a lot for the NIM video, and I edited some sections for the NIM video. One of my favorite sections I edited for that was the Matty Schrock section. I really like that section. So yeah, I'll give a shout out real quick to Heath Burley. He's watching this, the little redheaded brother from Texas.
Oh, Heath, man, love Heath.
Yeah,
he actually came out to we did a couple shows in Texas, and we obviously went out there to skate, but he came out to the shows too, so it was really cool to see him. Actually, I know I asked you a question, but there was one I wanted to ask you before that I kind of got away from. You guys were in San Diego, like this big blade house in North Park, which is like this pretty well-known kind of hip skateboard area. San Diego, like SF, has like these deep skateboard roots and surf roots that kind of have this classically just, you know, distaste for blading. They don't like blading. It was the first time when I went to San Diego and I was going to like the concrete parks when I was feeling certain energies. Was that weird there? Was there any tension?
Okay, well, so the thing with skateboarding in San Diego is you got a lot of people that talk shit, you know, in rollerblading. Like you go to a bar and you're like, oh, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I rollerblade. And like, rollerblading, blah, right? And that happened for quite a while, from around 2000 to, let's say, 2004. And but in that time period, Johnny Donahoe came from the skateboarding industry. He was a skateboard photographer first. Worked for Transworld and Thrasher and whatever. And so he knew. So we met a lot of skateboarders from them. And in San Diego, you had, was it Swank Distributions? Like Todd Swank was Pig Wheels, Zero Skateboards before Jamie Thomas took it over, Foundation Skateboards, and these guys lived in our neighborhood. And I knew a lot of those riders because they would go to the bar we went to, and they would actually come over and hang out. They would watch Blade videos. I remember there was a guy from Australia. His name was Gareth Stir, and he would watch Blade videos. Like he would get them just to watch them to get stoked on going skateboarding. Like back in the early 2000s. And none of those guys that we met, would hang out that rode for like Foundation and all those brands hated on blading. Like they enjoyed watching it. The only people who hated on it were the guys who sucked at it. The guys who sucked at skateboarding were like the worst haters. But the hater period in San Diego was really ended about 2004, and I think the time it ended is, when you started going to bars, everyone who was like a rollerblader in the 90s finally turned 21, and they're all at the bars. So pretty much everyone at the bar was like used to rollerblade. So, you like say you rollerblade and people start being like, oh, that's cool. It's like it totally switched at some point in time because everybody used to rollerblade. It was you starting to meet. So, and a lot of these skateboarders that did hate on it were a lot older, and they kind of like faded away. But yeah, that was my experience with it in San Diego. I thought it was fairly positive from the actual core scene. It was just negative from the kids at the skate park.
Yeah, I've always been curious about that, relating to SF in San Diego, just because it just seemed like a lot to undertake going to the skate park, or just like unnecessary stress, or at some point. So
I mean, skate parks definitely were stressful. But I think like my experience was very similar to when I was in New York, and we were at Harold Hunter's house. Ron Hunter, and you might have been there. Like we're all hanging out. It was like there was a photographer from Thrasher or Transworld, and a bunch of skateboarders, and then all the rollerbladers, and everybody's hanging out, and we're watching like one skateboard video and one blading video at Harold Hunter's apartment, and that's kind of what it was like with us in San Diego with these pro skateboarders, But yeah, you're right. When it came to like skate parks, there's a lot of bros in San Diego, especially the more north you go, like Escondido, like north and east. So it's a different. The more north you get, the skateboarders were a lot worse as far as just being assholes.
Yeah.
But in San Diego itself, everyone was pretty mellow.
Cool. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take you off course, 6. I know you were talking about 2012 leaving, but before we got out of San Diego, I just wanted to touch on that. So I'm sorry.
I
had somebody ask a question in the thing I was going to answer real quick about my Duran Duran hat, which was I was wearing in a Daily Bread thing. I sold out on eBay. It is gone. I sold it for like $50. And someone else asked if I hung out with Brian Bell at all, and I didn't hang out with him that much. The first time I ever went to San Diego, which this is another good backstory. Lonnie Gallegos and I drove to California in 1999. It was my first trip to Cali, and we went up to the Bay Area, and that's the first time I skated with Pat Lennon and Brian Shima and Eric Garcia and all those guys, And I filmed a video called Urban Decay, and it's had all the NorCal guys in it. It's got like a Rob G section. It has an Eric Garcia section. It's Chris Fleener section back in Texas. But that's a good Cali video. So, and then we went down to LA and we hung out with Ernie Ramos and all those guys. And then we went to San Diego. We stayed with Brian Bell. So me and Lonnie stayed with Brian Bell, and that was the first time I met him. And he was a really nice host. Hosted us when we were there. Then when I moved to San Diego, it was a little awkward at first because Brian was filming a lot of the Wanted videos, which Wanted 2 or 3. One of those is like one of my favorite videos. It's just awesome. But there was a little tension with I think he felt I was a little stepping on his feet because I was trying to go film with Haffy and stuff. So at first, it was a little bit awkward, but we became friends, fairly quickly. And like we didn't hang out that much, but he was always a pleasure to hang out with. And it's very sad, about his passing and stuff. Like he's definitely a good dude and a very legendary, and important skater in the sport in the early days.
He had a huge
For
influence
sure.
on everybody back then.
For sure. R.I.P. B Bell, Brian Bell, Billy Bell. He's the
Uh,
man. Made some of the best videos. Wanted, Street Dwellers. If you haven't seen it, check it out. But
and one of the gnarliest bladers ever from the 90s,
oh,
by far.
forget it.
By
Gnarly.
far. He was doing hammers when hammers weren't even a thing yet.
The original stunt guy. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
that was
sick.
that was Brian Bell. But I wanted to ask, because you were talking about all the companies that you were involved in. You were involved in, Rat Tail Distribution, NIM, Boot Company, 4x4 Wheel Company, Vicious Clothing Company. You had your hands in so many different brands. Like, what aspect is more fun to work with, or was more fun as a creative, maybe, or just in general, just what you can produce under that brand?
Well, Vicious was definitely my baby, and everything we did with that, from the marketing, the ads, the edits, just branding and imaging, like marketing a company like that was very fulfilling. Um, I did enjoy, doing a lot of the print ads I did a lot of print ads for Ground Control as well, and t-shirt graphics for them, because we distributed when the ground control shirts started getting a little bit more interesting. It's because we took it over through Rattail, and we were distributing the ground control shirts for several years. So um, I did a lot of t-shirt design, which I enjoyed a lot of. Any design type of work is what I really enjoyed. That and marketing, and I don't do as much design anymore, but I do like marketing still. Especially with social media and stuff. I find it fun to market blading stuff.
It's like a game.
Yeah.
I know, that's awesome. No, and they're talking about now what you're up to, because anybody who may only know you recently that may not have known your roots, that you were involved in the media back in the 90s with magazine Daily Bread, like the biggest magazine back then, and all these other brands, and now you're doing then and now you have Big Wheel Blading. You do the New England Blading Camp every year. Like, you're still heavily involved. What keeps you doing these things for the last 20 something years?
Well, I've been blading since 1989, and I've done it most of my life. I mean, I'm 45 years old now, so I'm no spring chicken, but I love blading, and I invested my life into it. And it's never been something I've made money at, but I just enjoy it, and I enjoy helping people and promoting people, and just watching skating and skating with people. I at a point in Austin, when I moved out to Austin in 2012, I didn't skate that much, probably from 2010 to 20, or maybe 2009 to 2012. I didn't skate that often in San Diego. But when I moved back to Austin, immediately I began skating again with, my old crew. And Austin at that point in the early 2012 to, 2015 was just a mecca. Everyone was moving there from all over Texas, Utah, places like that. You had Anthony Medina, building up the scene there. Andrew Broom, Mick Castles, Heath Burley, Cody Sanders, a lot of skaters. Jason Howard, still killing it to this day. Like, the scene is amazing, and you also had filmmakers there like Jay Gurink, and and old school guys like Frank Stoner, and Micah Yeager was living there too at that point. So, and a lot of other old school guys and new school guys. But every Monday for 4 years, 5 years, we would meet up at House Park Skate Park downtown and skate. In the summer times, we would meet up like 6 a.m. because it was so hot there, and in the rest of the year, we'd meet up around 9. But we did it every Monday. Had 5 to 20 people every week, and then we had a lot of different night sessions and box sessions, and I was probably out skating 5 days a week. And then around 2015, I decided I needed to get a little bit more exercise, and I got some Power Slide Imperial skates from Matthias, and that was my first big wheel setup, 3x100, and I just started cruising around the city, um, and doing some distance skating, and it was a lot of fun. I just enjoyed the freedom of surfing the streets. Felt really good bombing garages, and because a lot of aggressive skaters, you know unless you're old school, like you didn't really grow up just skating around the city. Some people only skate from like skate park or like to rail from the car. But just spending hours skating around the city, it's a lot of fun, and I really fell back in love with it. Um, and I started organizing night skates, and we would do 15 to 30 mile skates every Monday night, 9 p.m. to midnight, which was really fun. And I enjoy skating with a lot of people in big groups, especially on the big wheels. And it was hard to find people to go on 30 mile skates on a Monday night, but we would have between 5 to 10 people almost every Monday. So what I started doing is organizing a group skate on Friday nights at this new neighborhood called Mueller, which used to be an airport. And I marketed towards quad skaters too, because I knew there was a lot more quad skaters at the time, pre-COVID, in Austin especially. So the first group skate I did had like 90 something people. It was like 75% quads.
Whoa.
And we skated around this area. And I picked it because it's very flat and has new streets. So it's very beginner friendly. And I was just trying to make a beginner night to kind of pick some people out to add to our long distance nights. And it was pretty good. It like the big size of the groups faded out fairly fast. It ended up only being maybe like 10 or less people for the rest of the time I did it, but I really enjoyed it. And when I was doing that every week and the distance skating every week on Mondays, I started skating every day. In like 2017, skated something like 2,500 miles around Austin.
Whoa.
And that was a lot of fun. And I don't know if you know who Caleb Smith, like from Iowa. Aggressive skater, does all those ultra skating distance skates. He came to Austin a few times around 2016, and he had just gotten a pair of power slide swells, and I took him on his first long distance skate in Austin. We did a 30-mile skate to another town and back, and he fell in love with it, and that started his whole like ultra thing. Like the next thing he did was skate at Ragbri in Iowa. So that was pretty rad. And then at the same time, I started Big Wheel Blading, the website, bigwheelblading.com, and it's still around today. It's been around for 4 years now. And the site I started to promote all forms of skating, all disciplines of skating, with a heavy bias to aggressive skating because that's where I'm from. So even though it's called Big Wheel Blading, it has all skating on it. And been a lot of crossover through the past couple of years with people doing distance skating and slalom skaters starting to do aggressive, and I'm just trying to tie that all together because my theory was the sport has all these disciplines have been trying to grow, but on their own, and they weren't that successful. But if they all work together to achieve a common goal, the sport would grow. If the whole sport worked together, all the different disciplines, and you see that with like the world skate events they had in Spain and they're having in Colombia. Like, I think that's a lot better having speed skating, slalom, and aggressive contests than having like a B3 where it's bike blades and boards. Because no one's there for blades. At these other events, everyone's there for skating, inline skating or quad skating, because that's all it is. So, but yeah, I did that, and I had big plans for the website. I was trying to get a lot of people involved to contribute. I had a few people contribute, but it's very hard to get people to, like I said earlier, to work for free. So for me, it's just a passion to do this, and a lot of people don't have that passion. They love skating, but they don't have the passion to spend their time doing writing or, getting content together, because it takes a lot of time. So it was definitely a lot less involvement from people than I expected, because I really wanted to make it more of a community type of website where people promote themselves, and even the brands. Like, there was not much brand support besides Powerslide, Rollerblade, and Icon have been supporting me a little bit, which has been very nice of them. So props to those brands. But a lot of the other industry hasn't really. It's just didn't work out like I thought. So then I started Done Now Blading, which is my new YouTube channel. So it's youtube.com/Jan Welch, or you can look up Done Now Blading, and it's
Check it out.
blading channel that's basically about my history in the sport and the present of the sport. And a lot of it's, I have interviews like you guys have. They're not live, but I do interviews with just people I know that I've met throughout the years, or new people I'm meeting. And so far, it's mainly been aggressive guys, but I'm going to start doing some, people from different disciplines as well, just to mix it up a little bit. But I'm overlaying the the interviews with actual like video and photos of what we're talking about in the interview. So it's actually takes it takes a lot of time to actually do all that. And then I have a show called The Vault, which is I have hundreds of old VHS-C, mini DV, and high 8 tapes that I've been logging, and The Vault is the raw footage, edited it down a little bit, getting out all the garbage, but it's still very raw, and I talk over it and kind of narrate what's happening, about the session and when it happened, like who's in it, some stories from some storytelling, and it's pretty cool. And I literally have, like 400 episodes of that show I can do.
Yeah, I love that one you put out recently with Chris Haffey at Dallas Kink when he was trying to fast slide the whole thing.
Yeah, that was the very first one. So that was the first episode, and I haven't had any like old tapes yet. One thing that I've realized that's kind of bummed me out is a lot of my tapes from 1999 to like 2002, we recorded over them with like 4x4 stuff and whatever, and so a lot of that is lost. Although I did make master tapes of all the raw footage for most of the videos I have, so I actually have all the raw clips. I just don't have the B-roll. So, but the B-roll is fun to watch because there's a lot of stuff like
that's the golden
just
stuff.
Friends you see and whatever. So it's kind of bummed that a lot of stuff's lost. And it's not all lost, but I mean, I'm sure probably like 100 tapes got recorded over. But then going further back, I do have all the high 8 tapes and the VHS-C tapes, which has like that old Rob G footage, old Jason Howard sections. And my kind of goal with this project is I'm categorizing everything so I can start doing once I have like all this stuff logged, I can start making like retrospective videos with like Jason Howard, like all of his old stuff I filmed and all of his new stuff, because I filmed between 2012 and 2017, I filmed a ton of stuff to make a video, and then I kind of got bummed out, and then we moved to Vermont, and then I just sat on the footage, but I've actually pretty much edited this video that I filmed between 2012 and 2017 that I plan on putting out once I hit 1,500 subscribers on the YouTube channel. So
everyone subscribe.
So go visit, subscribe.
John Welch. Subscribe.
Get in there.
Is this then and now, or is this The Vault, or is this Skateboarding?
This is the then and now blading page. But the video is different. I mean, the video is a video I filmed, and I've just been finally editing it, and I've gotten more footage throughout the years. So it's not all old footage. Like, I've got a lot of footage, and people sent me footage and stuff. So it's just going to be a new video. That's going to be, it's going to be tied in with the then and now blading page. So, but the blading page is going to have a lot of old videos, and I'm going to do a lot of documentary style stuff on there with people, and news. I'm doing like a kind of news show, a little bit different than the ones out there, just more background information, and I just do a ton of shows because I have so much archives, and I have a lot of. There's just a lot in my head from the history of blading to talk about, So, and on the spot with you guys, it's a little harder to remember. Usually, I write stuff down like. I make like a list.
Well, you got a lot of stuff going on.
But now if people want to see it, they can go to your channel. They can follow up on that stuff because I'm interested in the history of blading. I've learned so much just like by doing this episode and having guests like you on and being able to like talk and go through those things. So I'm sure when you like get everything down and organized and go through all those tapes, it's going to be cool to get everything down. I was going to ask you what you see like your ultimate goal in blading, like in a perfect world, or the direction you see blading going moving forward. Do you see positive things for blading moving forward? Do you feel hopeful? I know there was certain points in blading where we had like dark. We were like, it's never going to go anywhere. It's at a point where it's like maybe it's going to go somewhere, or where could it go? What could it be? What do you see for it?
Well, with the Rat Tail is a prime example. Rat Tail was a very popular band. In the era of when rollerblading was the least popular, or had the least amount of people doing it. So, you got a lot of fans, but it was very niche, and there wasn't an audience to buy this stuff. And you look at today, where with COVID, you have all these people back to blading, and you have news kids, and like the Dallas comp they just had, they actually had a kids, competition. And when's the last time a contest
Oh,
had a kids
really? That's awesome.
So you just have, there's a lot more
Shout out
skaters
Gino.
now. You have, what's that?
Shout out Gino Gatelli for throwing that
Yeah,
contest.
Gino's a good dude. But you have a lot more. I mean, you have a lot more people with money. Back then it was a lot of kids, their parents buying them stuff. Now it's like people can buy their own stuff. I mean, you look at the collections that people have. Some of these wheel collectors and stuff. Spending hundreds of dollars per set. But the way I see blading now, like I love the fact that it's getting diversified with people doing different types of skating. So you're not just stuck to aggressive skating. You're big wheel blading or you're aggressive skating, and you're buying multiple skates, which helps the industry. And I like stuff like Julio, with the royalties for the skates that did with the Danny Beer skate, and stepping up that game. And you have companies like Gods like raising their royalty, and
Yep.
Skaters deserve to get paid. They're doing all that work. So seeing that's rad. Seeing those billboards he's doing, the new store. I think Julio and them. It's been very impressive the past 2 years watching everything. Just that whole crew he has. I think they're doing it really well, and I'm really stoked to see Mesmer. Like, I feel like it's kind of like a little lost baby of Ratel that's just found its way home to you, Billy. And
Mesmer by Ractile Distribution.
So, but yeah, I think Mesmer is awesome. Like, the team's great, and Icon, like the fact that those guys have that opportunity, and Icon, I mean, to have so much product for I mean, obviously don't have a lot of it in inventory because COVID and stuff, but if you look at their website, I mean, a brand new brand that has that much stuff, it's insane, and that's pretty cool. Like, what's that?
Icon is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
huge. So much stuff. Yeah,
it's huge. And then you look at, I mean, how well 50/50 is doing, and just all the brands. Nobody can keep stuff in stock. I feel like it's a great time to be in blading, and I'm sure if Ratel was still around, it would be, it's what we would have worked for. It's what we always dreamed of it to be like. And it was always my dream to start another brand after Ratel. Like when I moved back to Texas, Mikey Yeager approached me about starting a wheel brand, which I want to do. I just didn't have any money to do anything, and wanted to be like the Isaac. Julian William Isaac was going to be the team, and rest in peace, Julian Isaac. Very sad loss of him. Great kid, but yeah, I've always want to start a brand, and people like always want to bring brands back. I was like, bring back for bring back Vicious, but my opinion, like if a brand dies, they weren't. It was a team collaboration. I mean, a group collaboration, but still, when a brand dies, like it should be dead. Like start something new and better.
I agree.
And I wanted to do something new and better. Like my idea was to start a brand and use the same artists, like Baytall and Adam Mara and everybody. So it might still happen. We'll see.
I got an idea for you, man. I got an idea. So keep it in the hair, right? Rat tail, red beard. What do you think?
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Like it? Okay. I'm just saying.
I like it.
Just an idea. You take it, you can leave it, throwing it out there.
That's pretty good.
his brain's going right now.
No, I like it.
He's like, what are you saying?
No, but so yeah, no, I agree that it would be cool to see something. And dude, to be honest, just like kicking back and having known you for so long, having met you in it was 2000 when Daily Bread came out to New York City in May, I believe, May or June, and to see like having been involved from the early chat rooms to like all the way now, still pushing, still so involved. And someone in the chat said it, Cody Sanders, and I agree. It's like so important for like these figures who've been around for so long, contributing to like still be around and still be part of the community. It's like just really important, iconic figures. So it's cool. Like I'm looking forward to seeing what else you do, and loving the vault and then and now blading, and just looking forward to any new projects on the horizon. Are there any new projects on the horizon?
Well, first of all, if you guys enjoyed this interview, make sure to subscribe to Then and Now Blading on YouTube. New projects on the horizon, besides the video project, not really. I mean, like I said, I'd like to start the, a brand. And if there was a new project, that would be it. But right now, I'm just trying to get this, YouTube channel rolling a little bit. It's been, just trying to figure. Like, I had to learn how to use, DaVinci Resolve and Audacity and all that stuff, which I never used before, and it's just mastering all that stuff, and everything's getting easier. Getting lighting and proper audio equipment. I still need like a real camera. I'm just using a GoPro 9 right now, and quality's not that great. But if I'm gonna do it, I want it to look pro.
Well, that's why people got to support your Patreon page too.
Yeah,
you got a Patreon
Austin
page.
Paz is the very first
Patreon
first, right? Supporter. Yes. Yeah. Now I've got 3 of them so far. So
that's it. We gotta get you more Patreon supporters. Everyone go patreon.com/then and now. I don't know what it is, but shout it out.
It's patreon.com/then and now blading, and that's also my Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and there's then and now blading.com has links to everything. It also has all the shows and the interviews I do is also on podcast, Spotify, if you want to listen to those. And I'm trying to get an interview with Billy sometime.
Yeah, we're gonna do one soon.
In the future, talk about Mesmer and digging a little bit more into our history.
Yeah, that'll be cool. That'll be cool. I'm looking forward to that. I like being on the other end.
Hey, I want to hold on 1 second. I think there's a drawer that has something I want to show you right next to me. Cool. I'll be right back.
Perfect. This is actually a good time for us to shout out our sponsor.
Do it.
Shout out Blank. Blank has been killing it lately. They got a brand new skate out, Sean Keane Pro model. Their team is incredible. Bunch of new content, doing a bunch of great stuff, and they are a supporter of our show, and we are very thankful for Blank. So shout out to Blank.
All right. Here's what drawer I just found. I found a old 4x4 John Elliott sticker.
Oh.
Nice.
And a VG4 booklet.
Wow.
And so I didn't mention this. Back in the day when I did Scum magazine, I used to own some clothing brands. I did a brand called Transit, which was jeans, and it changed to Transient when I forgot which skateboarder, but started Transit Skateboards. So changed to Transient, and then I had another brand called Farmland, and the team was like Jason Howard and Anton Kennedy and BJ Campbell from the Portland guys. So here is some things I found. Here's Scum Magazine issue 10 with John Farmer, Robinson Rivera, John Ortiz, Jake Elliott, Dallas Niss.
Damn.
Interviews with those guys.
Wow.
Back.
Wow.
Ad for Transit clothing. Lonnie Gagos' ass right there. And then I found issue 11. This is January, February 1998. And Alex Lopez, Frank Stoner.
Gems right there.
It's still in such good condition.
I know, he kept that.
Yeah,
pristine.
Here's a 1996 catalog for my Transit clothing.
That's sick. They even had catalogs and everything.
I have Scum Magazine, issue number 2.
It looks like a Lurch drawing.
Wow. That does look like a Lurch drawing.
And... oops, sorry, microphone got hit. Scum Magazine, issue 0. I'm the only other magazine with an issue 0 besides B-Mag, and they totally bit me because this was around first. And here's a Daily Bread Quattro sleeve.
Oh.
Completely fresh.
VHS.
And then there's issue 1, which was a Trailer Park issue.
That's the same cover as issue 0, no?
I know. I don't know why, but no, it's the same cover as issue 0. And then here's issue 8. So yeah. Anyway, there's a bunch of them here. Here's one with this is the last one I'll show you. This one has a Champion Bomb Summer interview in it.
Oh shit, Champion.
And yeah, so yeah, I have a bunch of different issues still.
Epic.
But I'm missing some, so I'm gonna make a list of the ones I'm missing. And I know I sold a lot of these to people back in the day online, so maybe some people still have Scum Magazine collections. Some of these back to blading guys.
You gotta upload that, man. You gotta upload that. I want to read that Champion Bomb Stiller interview.
Yeah.
I actually have the website, scummagazine.com. I have the entire website backed up. The issue with the website is, if you remember, back in the 90s, bandwidth was really poor, so you had to make really small JPEGs and very tiny GIFs. So like I'm looking at these photos. I'm like, they look at this big. Like I can't even even with the good AI like gigapixel software still doesn't you can't do anything with them. So and I lost the drive that had all the print layouts on it. So that's unfortunate.
Was that champion interview champion with oxygens?
It was.
I love champion skating in oxygens.
Like it was
his VG5 section.
It's a good chance because what year is it? It's issue number 5, fall 1996.
Oh, he might have been before oxygens.
So here's this whole industry rumors section, which a lot of it was. I mean, some of it's true and a lot of it's bullshit, and it's just stuff I saw online. And that's the ones that they would reprint in that inline magazine in Germany.
You were heavy in the internet in the 90s. I don't remember I obviously it was around, but like I don't remember much of blading anything on the internet until 2000s.
Oh yeah, you were sleeping, dude.
Well,
internet was big.
I didn't have the internet back then. What do you want me to do? Yell at my family for not having a computer or the internet back then? But I missed that on a whole generation.
Gotta go to the New York Public Library.
Yeah, I gotta go to the library and log in.
So the photos in here you can't tell what skates he's wearing because it's very pixelated. But maybe he says, I'll read it later and I'll actually send you guys a copy and you guys can post it.
That'd be sick. You should upload those to what's that website Issue? With all the digital
I could
zines?
do that. It's just my issue is my issue is I have so much stuff I'm working on all the time, so it's like hard to find time to do all this stuff because I'm like also photos. I've been scanning photos, so like I'll spend like 2 weeks every day, like 24 hours a day scanning photos, and then I'll like get into another project, and I also do a lot of work out in the woods because I'm building ski glades, which is thinned out trees for skiing because I do a lot of skiing here in Vermont. A lot, which reminds me a lot of skating, which I really enjoy. But
you got your hands on a lot of different things. By the way, I remember a while ago you sent me a listing for a house that had like a skate park in the backyard or something like that by you.
Yeah,
you didn't buy that, did you?
No, I didn't. No, I don't know if you've met Miles Cotter Sparrow from Rollerblade.
I haven't. No. Oh no, I haven't.
He's like he's the guy who works at the Rollerblade office. That's the aggressive skater, and I don't know if you guys ever went up to Zero Gravity Skate Park in Vermont when they had ASA contests back in the day.
I never have.
Well, his family's the ones who own Zero Gravity Skate Park, so he's been around a long time in the Vermont blading scene. And he, I don't even know what we were talking about, but it was relevant to your question.
Skiing.
Oh yeah,
the house.
That's that house. He's the one who got me into skiing. But that house with the skate park is like half a mile from his house. That's how I found out about it. So he took me to it because he used to know the person who lived there. And yeah, it's a house it's an off the grid house, first of all, and it had a really bad road that needed to be graded, but had a concrete skate park behind it. So
and like street spots too.
Yeah, it was a street. It was like a street plaza skate park, not like no transitions, nothing, just ledges, like ledges and little rails.
If you're off the grid like that,
cool.
You got to have something to skate. You can't be going to the cities to hours away to go street skating.
Yeah, we have a lot of. I want to mention real quick the New England Blading Camp, which is it's basically like the Colorado road trip. I went on a Colorado road trip probably 7 times throughout the years, and Colorado road trip, I love it. It's a little wild for me now, and being in Vermont, there's not a lot of people. I don't have really a lot of friends. I'm a very social person. I have a lot of friends in San Diego and Austin, and I don't really have a lot of friends out in Vermont because there's nothing to do besides ski and it's hard to meet people. So I started New England Blading Camp 4 years ago, when I first moved here, as a way to get people to come to Vermont, so I would have people to hang out with. So, but there's a lot of skate parks here. Vermont's got probably 60, 70 skate parks in a state that has 700,000 people. So there's not one city in America with that population that has that many skate parks. I mean, I live in a town, it's called Lyndonville, Vermont. It's 45 minutes south of the Canadian border of Quebec and has 6,000 people. We have 2 skate parks. One's concrete, one's prefab. at the college, the concrete parks at the volunteer run ski hill that's been around since 1937. And I'm on the board of directors of that ski hill. I volunteer. I do their social media. That's another thing that takes up my time, especially when ski season comes around, because I do all their postings on the website and Facebook and social media. And anyway, they have a skate park there. And so this event I do, it's 5 days and 4 nights in Vermont. And we camp 2 nights at Miles's house and 2 nights at my house. And we visit skate parks all around Vermont. And it's a lot of fun. And we do end up every day ends with swimming holes and really cool swimming spots. It's very scenic. And it's not wild like, some other road trips. It's just like super mellow, it's like family friendly vacation. So I'd like to see you guys up here sometime. You haven't made it yet.
I know. I miss it every year. I work on the weekends. That's my problem.
It's different every year, but the past 2 years, it's been the weekend before Bashi Pope.
That's a nice time up there.
I did it around Bashi Pope because I was hoping to get some of those Europeans that like to stay early, like to come up there, but it didn't really work out that way. So I'm going to start making it earlier in the summer when it gets dark later, so I'd like to maximize daylight.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sounds awesome. Yeah, it's really nice up there in the summer. New England in the summer is really nice. Charles River.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's incredible.
If anybody was coming from Europe to the Bashi thing, the New England blading camp is a completely different experience. I can tell you that right now.
Totally.
Completely different experience. So that's a good way to come to the States and have a completely different, New York City experience with the Bashi Pope contest, and then a way more chill, I'm sure.
Super chill.
Yeah. I would imagine.
So the first year we had a lot of Europeans, like Freddie White was there. We had a lot of guys from Montreal. Montreal's 2 hours from me, and there's a lot of skaters from France that live there, and it really helped rejuvenate the Montreal scene. The Montreal scene is very strong. There's a lot of skaters. They have a brand new skate shop there. They have sessions all the time, competitions, and I've unfortunately haven't been able to go the past 2 years because the border's been closed. But they've got a couple in their skate parks. They've built tons of new concrete parks up there since COVID, and I'm looking forward to going back. You can cross the border now, but you have to have a negative COVID test, which is not an issue, except I tried to go and I didn't get my test back in time to actually cross the border because they only give you a 4-day window. So for crossing the border for just the day, it's kind of a pain in the ass, but probably spend like a couple days up in Montreal sometime before the snow falls.
I missed you last time in Montreal.
I know that was ridiculous. I can't believe I never saw you.
We were there the whole weekend skating with the same people and missed each other.
That's insane.
We'll make up for it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But Jan, we've been going for almost 2 hours already. The chat has been popping off. People love you. There's a ton of super chats. There's a ton of questions. Are you ready to get into these questions?
Yeah.
And all support? Yeah. So everybody, submit your questions now if you have any for Jan. Super chats, as we say in every episode, half the super chats go to our guest. And we appreciate those very much. We have a ton already, so I'm just scrolling up to get through some of these to shout out our super chatters. And also we prioritize the super chat questions. So, of course, off the bat, Chad Hornish, which was on Then and Now podcast recently.
That's right.
Check that episode out.
Third person.
Thank you, Chad Hornish. Check that out. Andre Howard, Super Chat, says, I'm stoked for Mesmer. I guess this was at the top of the show in the beginning when we did the intro. We have, throw your M's up. Grivo, who says, much love to the Shaolin boys and the culture. Okay, that's us, but it's supposed to be Jan here. Okay. Smiley Juggles says, remember that time you were in Denver filming and we basically got muscled away from the ledge spot because a scooter street contest showed up?
I do. That was the most crazy thing I've ever seen. It was like we had a big group, like 25 bladers, sessioning a school, and we set up all sorts of stuff like doors, against this roof to gap into. And all of a sudden, like 200 12-year-olds on scooters come around the corner and take over everything we're skating and like basically like strong arm us out of it. And they were having like a real street contest in Denver. And I've never had a group that big, like of us having that many skaters being like pushed out of a spot by any sport. And it was actually the most scooter kids I've ever seen in my life.
1,200?
But yeah.
I bet like
200.
I bet in like 2000 to 2004 in San Diego when there were some beefs at the skate parks and the concrete parks in San Diego, you would have never envisioned that to be a situation in the future.
No.
Am I right? No.
No, and I actually
Who
met
could have
Smiley.
predicted that?
I met Smiley in San Diego at Bar Pink. He was there visiting. That's where I met him for the
Smiley.
first time.
Who's that?
The guy who just asked the question from
Okay.
Colorado.
His name's Smiley.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Real name?
that's
Yeah,
his.
Smiley.
Well, he's always smiling, so that's why it's a
That's
nickname.
good. That's good.
He's a happy, positive guy. He's really
Nice.
nice. I like
Good.
him.
We need more people like that in the world.
That's right.
We got a super chat from Jonathan Soto. I like how it puts an emoji, but it says pair character cheerfully blowing a party horn. Thank you for the super chat. Mere Mortal says the same thing. Lemon character running and then kneeling on the floor. Okay.
No, just read the whole thing out. Lemon character running, then kneeling on the floor.
Well,
His
okay,
arms wide open. Okay, please. Lemon character running, then kneeling on the floor. His arms wide open and a slice of lemon appearing behind him. I want to find that emoji.
17BKS has a question. Memories from filming Ian Furnett. Is that how you say his last name? Furnett?
Jan Frenette?
Yes, it's Jan Frenette.
Jan Furnett.
It
Okay.
sounds like me, but it's French, so it's pronounced Jan.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I filmed with Jan in Montreal, and possibly in San Diego. The first time I filmed with him in Montreal was when I was there for the Detour. Chris Edwards' Detour was in Montreal. He was there with a bunch of Australians: Ian Brown, Justin Buchanan. I forgot who else. A few other Australians, and I met Jan there and Nikki Adams, and I filmed with them. And Jan had a section in Urban Decay, I think, that video I talked about. So I actually met him before that. I don't remember when I met him, but he was in some videos I made in the 90s, and then I met him and skated with him, filmed with him in Montreal twice, on 2 occasions. I went up there and filmed with him. But it was around 2001. Because when I went back to Montreal recently, it's changed. Like, I mean, the first time I went back after moving here, I couldn't even recognize it. You know, it's grown so much. But yeah, Jan Frenette was a really cool skater. Very good style back then.
17BKS, the second part to it, the question. It says, chances of Elliot getting back on the blades. God bless.
There's no chance of Elliot getting back on the blades. You know, he got back on the blades. I mean, he got back on the blades a couple times, you know, earlier on, and got injured. I mean, it's last time he skated, it's been 16 years. I mean, maybe he'll show up on some big wheel blades. Who knows? But I know Ronnie Bautista is still in touch with him, and he did say that John had mentioned about possibly skating again. But I don't know if that would actually happen. I haven't talked to John in a couple of years, so I'm not sure. But if he hasn't done it now, there's a chance that he might not.
Yeah, if
I know
COVID
he's got all
didn't bring him
kinds of
out.
knee problems. You know, he's got.
Yeah.
I know he's got all kind of knee problems and
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, see, in the lenient blind is one of the times he came back, and if you remember, his knee went through the wooden fence. Like, there's a clip of him eating shit, and he was going to jump over a curb, over a wooden fence, and then bonk a fire hydrant, and then go to the street, and it's at the parking lot of San Diego Zoo. And last minute, he just like didn't jump, and he went straight through like a thick wood with his knee, and that was probably the last time he ever skated. You know, because he definitely jacked up his knee there.
Oof.
And also, Montgomery Monsters asked me who my favorite skater is, and I don't have one skater per se that's my favorite. I think Chad Hornish is a pretty neat rollerblader, but yeah, no, I love Chad. But my favorite skaters are, you know, I mean, pretty much anyone we had on Rat Tail is a favorite skater. Everybody on Mesmer is a favorite skater. I have favorite skaters. I can't pick one. I have a favorite style of skater. So I think the style of skater of people you've seen in my videos are my favorite. I mean, there's some people I never had a chance to film with, obviously, that I've always loved skating, but I can't pick one person. Maybe like I could give you a list of 20 if I thought about it.
Oh, a list of 20. That's an episode on its own.
That is YouTube show.
That's
it could be a Then and Now episode.
Exactly.
Yeah, I might have to do that.
My top 20
Thanks
favorite
for the idea,
skaters.
guys.
Super chat from Jeff Metz, who says, I remember a rumor that the second 4x4 video was going to be called Actions because actions speak louder than words. Any truth to that rumor?
That's the first time I've heard that rumor, so I'm gonna say no truth to that rumor.
Oh, interesting. I wonder where that came from.
I have no idea. I mean, shit, maybe I got left out of rumor mill back then, but I've never heard that before, so I can tell you I've never heard that rumor before. And I was, involved in that era, so.
That was a good question, Jeff.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Jay O'Neill says, Jan, big fan of...
Cousin Jay.
Cousin Jay, big fan of your YouTube channel. Thanks for taking the time to document blading history. Gotta know, at any point in time, instead of the vault, did you consider the name Welch Tape Juice?
No, but that's a good one. And that's almost like, I do another YouTube channel called Vermonting. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's my
I've never seen that.
channel for the work I'm doing on our property. And when I asked ideas for names, one of them was Yomberjack, and I thought that was pretty funny.
That's a good one.
But yeah, and that falls in line with that. So that's a good suggestion. That could maybe be a new show I can work on.
A segment, something like that. Branch off.
Thank you.
You got a lot of ideas from this.
Yeah, totally.
We're all brainstorming here, everybody. Shoal Mackelson says, thanks for everything you've done and continue doing for blading, brother. Much love. P.S. Quit deleting everyone's comments. Is that for this? We're not deleting anybody's comments. I will say, though...
I know what he's... I think he's referring to on the rollerblading Facebook group. It's overrun with spam, and there's some new Facebook filters they made for admin assist, and I turned those on, and for 3 days, it just deleted everyone's post that was trying to post something.
Does it do it automatically? Because I get notifications
yeah,
for
it did
that
automatically. It basically was to prevent spam, and it caught 75% spam, but it also caught 25% blading content.
Oh, shit.
And I didn't realize it was doing that until there were some angry people, and I went ahead and fixed it and apologized. So
Okay,
if
so
you got
there you
deleted
go.
on rollerblading, my bad.
Jan wouldn't do that on purpose, guys. Come on.
No,
Look how
it
nice
was
he
for
is.
the good intentions.
Alex O'Brien says, Jan, thank you for all your great work. Much love from the Midwest.
Alex O'Brien, thank you so much for letting me stay at your house. When I moved to Vermont, I stayed with him in Omaha, and he was a great host, and he took me to all the legendary Omaha spots, like the long rail, the long one, and some
Dave
of those
Kolash
old,
rail.
yeah, the Dave Kolash rail, and some of those old spots from the videos in Omaha, and it really cool. So, Alex, I appreciate that.
Thank you for the super chat, Alex. We have another one from your favorite skater, Chad Hornish. Do you know what happened to Casey McFarland? Why is he asking you that?
Well, it's funny he's asking me that because I asked him that in the interview I did with him.
So he's being stupid.
I'm gonna bounce it back to no. I'm not sure what happened to Casey McFarland. I'm assuming he has a family and a job and doing real estate. I don't know, but he was a really good skater, and
He was.
it was. I was talking to Chad when he was interviewed, having so early on in NIM, having two kids from Phoenix riding for NIM, at the same time, I thought was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, Casey McFarland was incredible.
killers.
He stayed with me in New York for a while.
Oh, yeah, I
was
forgot
really
about
good.
that.
His section in NIM video was really good.
He was a killer.
Yeah, he's that's some of those skaters you're just like what happened to him,
Mm-hmm. People just fall off.
Yeah.
Fall out. I remember I'm sure Chad probably mentioned, I remember he was busy with work for the Cubs or something like that. And during baseball season, he was just nonstop working. So that's why he stopped skating. But who knows what the hell happened? That was 10 years ago. We have one last super chat so far from Kevin Dugard, who says, can you share your favorite funny/embarrassing story during tour?
Well, let me see. I have to think about that. There's a few stories. I think one story that was kind of funny to me is that first time I went to New York City, and we were at Hunter, at Ron Hunter's house and Harold Hunter's place in Alphabet City, back when Alphabet City wasn't quite as gentrified as it is today.
Absolutely right.
It was pretty sketchy, and it was from what I remember being told, if you had a skateboard or rollerblades, no one would really mess with you. And if you didn't, you were fair game. and Mike O'Brien I believe was from Connecticut, was there. No one, I guess they didn't want to let him back into the apartment as a joke, and he was wearing all red, like red hat, red shirt.
That's
He's like
right.
calling people, like let me in, and like nobody would let him in. So that was kind of like, I mean, funny, yeah, but also like potentially dangerous. I think the Razor's Blitz tour had a lot of ridiculous stuff happen on it. I remember there was a skate park in Pittsburgh, 915 skate park, I believe. One of the Razor's am skaters at that point had a dynamite in his car, and we had just gotten a lot of fireworks, and we had some firework battles in this Razors had rented an RV. It was like a 30-foot RV or 25-foot, whatever. But his tour was brand new, and I mean, it got ravaged on this trip. Firework fights inside of it. People making, Charles Dunkel making all sorts of bombs, and this guy had this fireworks, this dynamite. He set it off next to the skate park. I'm not next to it, but it was fairly close, and just the whole building was like corrugated metal was just like rippling. You just hear it like. That was pretty gnarly.
Those are wild years.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if stuff's funny. I think it's just more like looking back, it's like sad, like silly, young kids stuff, But I'm sure there's some funny ones too. I just can't think of it.
All right. Well, I think that's it for the super chats.
Yeah, so far.
We have some regular questions here, and we will take a few of them. Matthew Rice has a question about something not regarding this podcast about Mesmer. Can't answer that. I'm sorry.
We'll do a separate episode on that later.
I'll address that stuff later. Montgomery Monster says, Jan, who's your favorite blader? You answered that.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Plastic Robot, otherwise known as Larry Fagan, Lurch, asks, how can I grow a beard like Jan's? Any advice?
Genetics. I've had this beard since I was like 17. So
since you were 17.
That's all I got for you. It's just naturally fluffy.
Shout out Larry Lurch Fagan.
Fluffy.
The come down, Heath says, want to get a latte? Starbucks. Miss you.
So yeah, lattes. I used to really love lattes a lot. That was my drink, my tour drink. And Frank Stoner, good friend of mine, he's also a latte fan. In fact, if you're ever on a Colorado road trip, you can find Frank Stoner. He has a generator with a espresso machine, and he'll make you lattes with half and half. So full half and half lattes, very fattening. But yeah, so latte. That's like we say latte. That's like our thing in the Texas crew when traveling.
Colorado road trips getting posh these days with lattes.
Yeah. All right, we there's another question from Matt Rice. He said, "What was your role in NIM? Why did it die?" But I think we addressed that earlier in the episode. What your role in with NIM was, and how it died. I think it was believed between John and Shima, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. Do you want to answer that?
NIM. It was just a point where there was no money left in blading, and everyone had to do their own thing. And we didn't have enough money to order anything. That's what happened. There was just no more money. Couldn't order new skates. Had skates that wouldn't sell. And everybody went their ways, and that wouldn't happen today, I don't think, but back then, there was a lot of money invested in those brands. And I think the biggest problem back then was, started NIM when we were in debt with Vicious and 4x4. So the debt of Vicious 4x4 should have probably been resolved before starting NIM. So basically it just happened it compounded, and there's just no money to do anything anymore.
Makes sense. Yeah. A lot of the companies from back in that time have a similar story, and a lot of really great ideas and great companies, but just bad timing, it seemed like at that time. But
yeah, I think another part of it is too, we're all coming in from skaters, and none of us know how to run a company properly, right? Had there been have all the brands back then actually had a real office manager, or
Everyone's so
somebody's
young
just
then
like,
too.
yeah,
How
and
old are
it's
you?
like nobody's in school. I mean, we're 20s, early 20s or
Those are
20, yeah, early
kids.
20s.
Kids.
But yeah, that's one thing I always admired. Actually, speaking of education and stuff like that, is um, the brands out of Europe in the 2000s were all made so well. Like you look at Jochen Schmiede's brand. I forgot the name of
UConn.
it. Yukon.
UConn.
And
UConn was
just all these
legit.
brands like um, autism and all these brands like, and even the videos, because there people go to universities free, so that all these guys are going to school for art and design and filmmaking and stuff, and so in the 2000s, like they stepped up the game of like brands and videos. You could see it was like they knew what they were doing. They knew how to run the companies and stuff, because they just came out of it, just because their system's different there. I always thought that was pretty cool.
UConn was an awesome brand.
Yeah, I mean it's still around, but
Is
it's
it?
definitely, actually, I don't know if you guys know, Jochen is on Big Wheel Blades now, and he skated the Berlin Marathon with Felix Strokowski, formerly of BMAG fame, this
Oh
past
yeah, Felix.
month. So yeah, he's him and Felix got into Big Wheel Blades, and he's getting all those guys on Big Wheel Blades doing distance skating around Berlin.
Nice.
That's sick. All right. Oh God, you got some funny questions here, but we'll just take one more. And I'm gonna pick this one because it's fun. Elijah Jennett asks, "What is your favorite time with Stockwell?"
Oof. Let me see. Favorite time with Stockwell? Well, I live with Stockwell, for 2 years or something. So I'm sure we had a lot of fun times. We also had a lot of, conflict times too. But I don't know. I like, traveling with Stockwell was always fun. Doing tours. We did a lot of. I mean, we filmed a lot. I filmed with him a lot. Um, he was just fun to be around. Being around, just driving around and skating. I don't know if I have any favorite moments. I think there was a lot of favorite moments with Jeff. I actually saw Jeff when I was in Austin. He came out. He was doing a photo shoot with BK, and we met up. And I think Drew Backrack was in town too, separately. But it was nice to catch up with Jeff then. Jeff is a very cool guy, and it's great to see him with his photography. And he's still skating and doing those Sunday brunch sessions out there with you guys. But yeah, I like Jeff, miss him, and we had lots of great moments and a few conflicts here and there. But the great moments overshadowed those.
I'm a friend of Jeff's, so I know. Great guy. But,
and somebody asked if I voted for Trump twice. Never voted for Trump. Sorry, guys.
Twice.
Sorry to disappoint.
I didn't want to have to mention that one just in case. I don't want to bring the controversy to it. The skate podcast, guys, skate podcast. But I just want to thank everyone for their questions. I want to thank you again for coming on the show. Do you have any imparting words of wisdom? Any shout outs, things that people should follow? Then and now blading.
Yeah, well, bigwheelblading.com is the website. There's lots of information on there. I have a really big shop list of every shop in the world on bigwheelblading.com. So if you're interested in that, also skate instructors, and then just lots of content, aggressive, speed, everything, distance. And then the new project, like we discussed, is Then and Now Blading. It's a YouTube channel. I have interviews. I have archives, old video stuff. Somebody just asked if I have Gonzo footage. I do have tapes of Gonzo. And I'm doing lots of different shows for that. So it's youtube.com/Jan Welch. So Jan Welch on YouTube, and it's called Then and Now Blading. And you can find it on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and there's a Patreon page as well, and podcasts on all podcast streaming services. And I'll shout out to all of my Austin homies growing up: Jason Howard, Frank Stoner, Jared McBay, Lonnie Gallegos, Shannon Rogers, Bobby Padron, Jay Gurink, and then all the Texas family and all my friends in San Diego. There's a lot of people, but everyone I've met, everyone I've been friends with, I love you all. And parting words, if you love, most of everybody in here loves skating, and if you want to do anything to support skating, like there's a lot of ways to do it. And if anybody has any questions about doing anything, hit me up. I'm more than happy to try to help you do whatever you want to do in the sport.
Awesome.
Jan,
Look at
you're
that.
the man.
You are the man.
And
That was
Thank
a
you.
good way to end it too. I love that.
yeah, and I just want to again say thanks. Thanks for everything you've done for skating. Thanks for coming on this podcast. Thanks for being you. I would love to catch up sometime soon. I hope to see you again soon. Maybe Austin and I could make it out to the New England Blade Camp thing and have a good, healthy, good fun, family friend time with you.
That'd be
Yeah,
nice.
for sure. If you guys want to do any winter sports, you're more than welcome to stay at my house anytime during the winter.
Winter sports. I like to
I
stay
like
warm.
snowboarding.
I like to stay warm.
I will come snowboard. But yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys having me on the show. It's really cool to see everybody in the chat. Thank you all for watching.
Hell yeah, Jan. You're the man. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for watching and tuning in. Jan, we love what you're doing now. Keep it up. People like you help keep the sport alive. So let's keep it going, everybody. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.
Bye-bye, everybody. Take care.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.